Hey everyone, Temporal here, and for this session we are going to be reviewing the matchup between the Houston Outlaws and the Atlanta Reign. That's obviously interesting because Outlaws performed pretty darn well in the last stage, tournament, month, whatever we want to call it these days, and then we have Reign over here as well. But the other thing that makes it interesting is we are looking at this with the June Joust bans in play. As we can see, this is June Joust qualifiers. So that means they are not looking at Tracer, Sombra, Reinhardt, or Zen as viable picks. And let's see what that does, because those are all heroes that certainly have a meaningful impact in shaping the meta. So it
Wrecking
looks
Ball. Dante, you
initially
fully expect him to probably play the Echo here
like
after
we want to see
Reinhardt
these
and
guys
Zen
come
maybe
out so
try to
that we
play
know for
out,
sure
but
what they're
we go
actually on.
double hit scan here for them.
Okay, so here we go. First thing that we want to observe, at least on Well, we are looking at a kind of a brawl comp of sorts. Like we could call this a poke brawl mix of sorts. We're running this Lucio Bap. Some of that is probably just well power for Lucio, but this is the brawl support line that we're running here that we've subbed, and then we've got a Diva to go with it. Still fits quite nicely, and then we're just mixing the Orisa in. But again, the Orisa and Lucio picks could right now be because this is well, not because they're trying to make something brawly. And then we've got the double hit scan. That's not too wild. We expected that when we removed, again, we removed Tracer, Sombra, the Tracer, Sombra, Zen, and Reinhardt. And of these, while this is an important piece of poke, an important piece of brawl, this is probably the best piece of dive, which, when you simplify everything, does potentially lead to poke being pretty powerful. And this is also, but on the flip side, these are double poke heroes, but this is also something that fits in pretty well as poke heroes with brawl. So still trying to figure out what Reign's take on the meta is. Well is not our best discovery for this. Over here, we've gone full poke. We've gone the Echo, the Ashe. They've said, forget the well heroes, forget knocking people in the well. We want our Mercy to boost this. And then we have the Ana sticking around. Again, there's no Zen option. BAP isn't particularly good at healing these heroes, and we've seen the power of the Nano Echo in the last match we reviewed where Fleta was regularly getting the Nano there. And then this is reasonable as well for poke heroes. So a bit of a poke dive comp here versus a poke brawl comp here. Let's see how that plays out.
The Rain.
I mean, you play around the Orisa here, so the
So
Atlanta
the
Reign,
more
they're playing
brawly
around
comp
that
is
specific lane
taking the
here and
cage, as
wanting
we
to
refer to
find
it,
some
versus the lighthouse side. That's not
freedom for
surprising at
the hit
all.
scan. I mean, it's an issue for Dante, of course, who really
Generally, what you'd be looking to expect Rain to do here is sort of go, we're going to turtle up in here. We have meaningful poke, so we can somewhat turtle up in here. We're not totally threatened. We'll tap the point as we need to with our Diva, with our Orisa, to make sure you guys can't cap it, to put some pressure on you. And then they'll be looking to aggressively rush on to someone who comes out here, or aggressively rush onto someone who comes out here. They're going to try and use this cage, though, to bait someone in, be that the ball, be that the Diva, be that the Echo. They want to bait someone in. It's probably going to be the ball or the Diva that they can then make a play on, because they're not going to fall that far behind in the poke battle, not with the terrain of the cage there.
building tops as prudently as possible to stay out of the line of fire. Seen a few teams lock the legs as of late, so Pelican wants to be the latest in that carousel. The Wrecking Ball from Dream is something we saw a ton of last year, Matthew. Should be a bright spot for Houston.
That's fine. This is how this is supposed to play out. It's going to be a somewhat slow, somewhat drawn out, hey, we're going to poke until someone's ready to make a move. That needs the map, the pressure of the point is one of the anchors. Usually you'd see Rain with a little more pressure on it as opposed to Outlaws, given the two comps, but such is life. Oh, we're going to have to force you up to something reasonable. Tell me if the stream quality on my end gets bad here, guys. It should hold.
And on to the point, though. They can't just kind of walk out there with the Orisa. You see Angle being taken by the Outlaws in every direction, just putting down damage. This doesn't really give the hit scan any line of sight.
Well, it's not supposed to. Here it is. So this should be the aggressive play. It's harder to make with Orisa, but this should be the aggressive play onto the ball. When the ball either comes here, tries to come in, tries to do anything, this should be Rain making an aggressive play to try to take out the ball. That's what they're going to have to do if they want this to work. And they don't have to actually eliminate it. They just have to get it so scared that it retreats, that it's no longer a threat. And when it's no longer a threat, then they're happy to push out outside of their cover and take the 6v5, etc. It looks like they instead got the Dante pick, which is fine. And now they're going to pressure that ball, and you can see they've left the safety of the cage. In part, that's because they got the Dante pick. In general, though, they would have been willing to leave the safety of the cage to some degree to go pressure that ball, either to eliminate him or more likely to chunk him to this level of health, where Dreamer is now going to have to go wandering. Dreamer is going to have to go find health packs, go spend time getting healed up, and that means that they'll have a temporary 6v5, or now a temporary 6v4, and they're willing to fight more in the open on the worst terrain in that situation.
There was really no line of sight for these players on it.
Eventually, Dante had to come down. I think he wanted to try and get a little bit closer and pressure that shield away. And as soon as he falls, I mean, it's a ton of damage really shut down, especially if the shield's still present and Happy still not really having a mechanism to get past that. This is where the Atlanta Reigns composition starts to look a bit more oppressive.
Yeah, and we'll see how the Outlaws try and combat this. They have the nano boost here. You also have a Bob already here from Happy, just getting so much ticks of the dynamite.
Okay, that's got the TNT. Are you going to get Bob value out of that? No, your Bob's going to get... So you hit the TNT.
He'll send the Bob in.
They shouldn't be under serious pressure from that, but they did use their lamp, so their lamp came out. Something pressured Iris enough there for the lamp. I have trouble believing it was just the TNT. The Bob does immediately get booped in there. I wonder if that was a chain boop between the D.Va and the Lucio, or if they intentionally blocked the Bob there so that they could knock him in with one boop. Bob fell down the hole. Yeah.
Nano boost here. Oh, okay. Happy.
Oh, both hit scan ults come out at once. One shut down with the sleep.
Well, Master's able to get rid of that one pretty cleanly. The Atlanta Reigns is still in control now. The tactical visor from Pelican forces the Outlaws again to move inside. But this is where Happy gets to keep striking. He had a
Happy doing some work with the angles. Where's Happy playing from? Happy's playing from there. And he was getting a lot of work done from there? Really? Or did he just switch sides to get there? No, he's doing work from there the whole time. We do see soldiers come over here. They're trying to establish multiple angles as the fight evolves here.
Forces the Outlaws again to move inside, but this is where Happy gets to keep striking.
Generally, what you'd have seen happen is you'd have seen they take Cage for the first fight because they get there at the first time, and after first fight, they end up in a situation where they actually push up to where Pelican is right now to not let Outlaws re-enter. They want to have the nice wide concave that Outlaws have to come up from their spawn towards, and then as Outlaws get closer, because the poke, well, their Rain are behind, maybe, on poke. They're not significantly behind, and it's debatable, actually, that they're even behind. They could then, if they're worried about, hey, can you jump us with anything, which they really can't. Like, it's perfectly fine for the Outlaws. I would have expected the Rain, to stay a little more forward after the fight went to make it a little harder to push into them, to take a little more of a poke tax on the way in than we necessarily saw. I do like to see the spread happening now, but it's a little late.
The point's still owned by the Rain, so the Outlaws need to actually put their foot down, but from there on out, it's just housekeeping.
Yeah, the Bob goes in,
is it? Is it just housekeeping? Now it might be housekeeping.
Goes in with Dante, and Dante at that moment, he had the nano boost in the Mercy pocket, just to be able to bump out so much.
Now it looks like Outlaws are potentially going to do a better job of setting this up. It's a little dicey because they've got the Echo into the double hit scan, but it's a pocketed Echo. No, they're really letting them in more cheaply than I'd like. Get some Echo pressure. And then they're going to go like this. And this is the correct retake path from Atlanta. They're going to retake Cage and do exactly what they did to win first fight.
So you have a Lucio in the mix, but like the Orisa and the McCree, not really.
Piggy's not a valuable jump target. Oh, and you're going to fake it out and actually go this way instead. Okay, that's fine. So if you guys caught what they did, they were like, we're going to set up here, because the standard play is we'd set up here and then either go into here, or if something's available, we might just go on it, etc. But basically you're trying to bait something close that you can push. Like you could push the D.Va and the D.Va's going to get away with boosters, but if you can do 400 damage to her and then go stabilize in here, you're happy with that. Or you do 400 damage to her and then you run on to the next thing because she's not fighting while you go do it. Like those were the standard expected plays, so they set up like they were going to do that. So naturally, Outlaws is going to play around them being set up to do that. They're going to play around. You're going to rush into the cage or you're going to rush someone close. We're not going to offer you anyone close. We're going to make sure our cover is relevant against you here, against you here. We're going to do that. And then they drop and go over here and they pop a big poke ult to make sure that their poke is going to be better than the Outlaws here. So they've got this good poke. Like they initially set up for a brawl win condition, we'll call it, a brawl solution, as some people have been calling it. And then they're like, no, 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 we set you up to make you think you're going to play brawl. You're going to take cover against brawl, and now we're going to flip it, use our ult to activate a poke style of play to upgrade our poke significantly, and we're going to have it from angles that you weren't defending against, because you were defending against here, and we're now here, which changes the value of all your cover.
Through and get onto the point.
More specifically, it's not a composition that benefits from just running at the enemy team necessarily. Both teams playing very different styles of poke compositions, and Dante's going to be copying the DV here, straight away defense matrix in the side room to try and get his teammates out of trouble. So far, so good. This extra durability for Dante definitely buys a lot of time and percentage. It gives the Outlaws their chance to
Okay. Oh, you're going to jump around on the Orisa head? That was fun. Oh, and you tried for it. You tried for it. You can afford to do that a little more. I hadn't thought about that. You can afford to do that a little bit more as Echo than as D.Va, because if it doesn't work, you're still 100 health Echo. Atlanta thinks Orisa can replace Rein. Well, if Zen, Tracer, and Sombra aren't on the board, maybe he can. Like, I'm gonna be honest, the way Atlanta is playing this game looks better than the way that Houston is playing this single round. Just because, and I'm just saying that because I prefer Atlanta's take attempts, both the first round take attempt and this take attempt. Even if this take attempt failed, I preferred their retakes, their takes, etc., to what we're seeing out of Outlaws. Outlaws didn't particularly well defend against the retake attempt, nor was their own retake attempt particularly amazing in terms of the strategy behind it, the setup behind it, etc., the fundamentals. Now, that doesn't mean they didn't outfrag, but hey, that said, Atlanta's defense wasn't particularly good either. They didn't defensively set up well. They just offensively set up well to take the point.
But you see that for the Rein, to get onto the point, they have to use the supercharger like around the wall, and that
no, they didn't.
Them to move
they didn't have to. They did it.
And then once the duplicate
it's okay. It's okay, Mr. X. You're
pretty
good. You're pretty good as a caster.
They're not even able to flip the point back. This time, Deadeye Tactical Visor, you can force a lot of different
standard. You're going to go here. You're going to just pressure the D.Va to bring the D.Va in. D.Va's going to correctly take high ground. You're now going to do this, and I'd like to know where your team is a little bit more. We're committing this. So this is the second time that they've done this. This is the second time that they've used High Noon and Tac Visor at the same time, and they actually have their lamp going for it as well. So, and window. Interesting. So in the previous fight, they went, we're going to convert our brawl comp to a poke comp with supercharger, and in this fight, they go, we're going to use 3 poke ults, which feels like overkill. I don't think you're that behind on poke, to flip it. It's explosive. I think it's going to make your ult economy a problem. I don't think you need the 3rd ult. I kind of liked what you were doing, though, in terms of, hey, we're looking like a brawl win condition, then we flip it with this. Now we're looking like a brawl win condition, and we flip it with this. And I think these two are likely practiced on, we're going to do these at the same time from very different angles. I think that's why we saw Pelican way over on the other side of the point last time when they tried to do this. That said, it didn't work last time they tried to do it. So I want to see how it works this time, and I would like to see where Kai and Iris are.
Want to use all of his defense matrix, and that's a sleep.
Yeah, so like, I don't love that. This part was correct in terms of, hey, let's use our 2 hit scan ults like this. I would have preferred to look a little more like they were going for the brawl win condition and like forced out the, they forced the D.Va onto cooldown a little, but then the sleep dart still happened. Unfortunate.
Nicely done from Crimzo.
And Piggy got all the way over here. Dang, that's nice.
Across
Piggy was messing with Pelican, runs away because losing health, and then manages to get over here where the window and the visor are and still contribute some.
Kai gonna force the self-destruct here for remake purposes. Piggy
It's not like it's infinity distance away. Like, obviously, yes, it's a, hey, it can go up here, it can go up here, it can go up here, and, like, those are reasonable retreat spots, but still.
Finally gonna jump straight back in the pilot seat, and Dante is causing problems. Kai goes down to the sticky bombs there. It's a sticky situation for Iris. He's run down by Dreamer. And now the Outlaws in spitting distance of...
Yeah, I don't like that as much. I liked the Orisa play. I can conceptually understand the double hit scan thing. I'm just not sure it was powerful enough, and I think you have to create a better condition to use it.
I mean, it's a beautiful sleep dart from Crimzo to shut that down. You know, the tactical visor coming in, they kind of had an angle there.
Like, Supercharger is a really powerful ult. The hit scan ults are not very powerful ults, and you're using them to create a like, no, we're flipping it, we're massively increasing our poke power spike, and I like that. But the problem is they're so easily shut down. A Diva, a sleep dart, like, they're so easily shut down. Line of sight for, you know, even just 6 seconds. Like, they're so easily shut down compared to the Supercharger. That I really feel they needed to get more out first. Getting just Piggy's health down, and using boosters probably wasn't enough. Okay.
The flank, they also had an amp matrix there, although not shooting at it. You never know. Could have went back, kind of took that angle. And then the defense matrix from Piggy right in the face of Kai, keeping Dante alive.
Gator just has to feed in to get points.
Gator
Happy? You don't? Can you stand tighter on cover, please? Please? Like, you already got the bob off. Why are you still...
Just the right way for the Outlaws. Again, Nanabu's going to be going over to Dante.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
That will be the Outlaws.
Atlanta Reign had half a plan, but that's perfectly fine. The Outlaws were doing the bread and butter better there. Atlanta Reign looked like they have a bit of a half-baked strategy with the double hit scan stuff. Again, I like the Orisa, I like the initial take, but they like had this idea of we're gonna swap from Brawl, from bait you in and then run you over type stuff, which you were never going to be able to bait this team in terribly hard, but you could bait in these tanks a little and then go them to a poke win condition, and that wasn't quite right. I actually think they'd have done better with the Brawl win condition, except when they used the Supercharger, but the Supercharger was also based off of a sharp rotation that compromised cover, or they would have been better off getting deeper into the fight sort of before converting to poke, which I know is a little weird because poke is generally poke's strongest point in the fight is the rotation / poke phase. Still, I think you needed, we're talking ults, and I think you needed to get a little more resource-wise out of the Outlaws before you were going for those. I also would have liked a more aggressive hold when they actually had control.
The Outlaws
cool.
are running. Maybe it's not exactly with the ball in the mix, but we've seen...
Happy as a mouth breather? Okay.
Echo,
Happy doesn't look happy. Happy as a mouth breather? Huh.
McCree, Soldier, Widow, Ash...
I wasn't looking at the face cams. I suppose they were there while I was paused, though.
The biggest thing is just what do you do with the tank line? Do they play a double shield? Do they play Orisa with the Diva? Do they play a Wrecking Ball and get a little bit more aggressive? Judging by the way that they have the supports now, with the Batiste in the mix, probably going to see the Orisa, and they're going to play the McCree. Interesting.
Okay, so do we really see swaps here? In terms of swaps, the only real swap that we've seen is we've moved the Soldier over to the Echo here, and we've moved Lucio over to Mercy. It's a pretty big change, though. Not having speed for this, that matters. On the other hand, that's probably worth more. It definitely makes them a poke comp. So now they're just playing the game of we've abandoned pretending to be a brawl comp. We are purely a, are we playing a poke comp around a Sigma, or excuse me, around an Orisa, or are we playing a poke comp around a ball? And yes, we have our difference of Ana versus Bap. Bap will give you more poke pressure. Sigma will give, or Ana will give you more ability power. Why do I keep wanting to get Sigma into this comp? And then obviously our McCree versus Ash. And I have to say, I would prefer the Ash here. I would. That said, Outlaws are, let me rephrase that. That said, Reign are playing into a comp that is using the ball, so I can see why they are a little more interested in the McCree. Whereas Outlaws are playing into a comp with the Orisa where the McCree doesn't actually help them as much. So I prefer the Ashe pick personally. I know that's a weird thing to say when, McCree is probably the most tuned above, not wildly tuned above, but most tuned above the DPS cast right now. But I actually would prefer Ashe in this situation. But it is reasonable to be running this McCree when there's this ball here and they expect this ball to be here. I like it. This is interesting. This will get to be a battle of the two poke styles in a sense, where, hey, is it the Orisa or the ball?
Over the Ashe, especially here on Ruins, where the sightlines are really long.
Kai may be expecting to be more defensive, is trying to hold that ground around the Orisa shield. Dreamer obviously getting caught by a flashbang. That's something that McCree does bring.
I was going to say,
True.
It's probably more
so they're just going to have to surrender space. Like, they're going to poke to try to make it difficult to get, but they can't seriously hold it. Unless Atlanta They did.
But you see right there where
they didn't consolidate their advantage well, and now they're just going to get flipped on. Okay.
Boost on Ashe is so strong. So that'll be a res that comes in to bring Kai back in the action, but just those pickoffs are Happy just slow the pace down.
Oh, missed the shot. Would have been a good one too.
Kai just tries to attract his attention over to the left-hand side, and for a moment it does work. But Happy will again.
Yeah, that mouth just hanging open. Being on face cam constantly or being on face cam not knowing when he is not doing Happy any favors there. That's unfortunate.
It's a low health McCree there for Kai. Needs to be careful, but Dante's been picked off. You see the Rainier slowly advancing their position. That pile driver could be quite nasty, and it was going to be huge. They were so low. There wasn't enough healing going over towards the Orisa.
That's not me trying to be mean, guys. That's just like from a media publicist, like from a growing his brand, growing the league's brand, growing his reputation as a player, which is how you make more money, etc. That's something he would want to work on. That said, there's way more focus on play Overwatch well, and he's doing that. That's fine. But Blah did call my attention to it there, so I looked.
Because the way that ends up happening, and
the happy brand, the happy brand, be happy.
Before it comes down with the slam, and once you get the nano and the slam, and it just does so much damage.
I think we're out of happy brand in Overwatch right now. I mean, you guys have seen the reaction to 5v5. Happiness is a brand that we could use some more of in Overwatch.
Damage with a double kill there, and then
I ruined it for Temporal. Yeah.
Huge play there coming out from Crimzo yet again. Crimzo being such good awareness to see the wrecking ball off to the side and perfect.
Okay, so they're pushing up. They're pushing up with their tanks on 1 because they think they can anchor around this. It's sort of reasonable.
In fairness, Gator and Kai were very low, so the setup was also excellent.
Just late. Dreamer's just late on that deployment. Dreamer, buddy. I know you know better than that. I know you know better than that.
The safety of that shield not really doing too much, and Dreamer throws a bunch of mines behind it. That's going to be replaced.
I did briefly work with Dreamer. Dreamer joined the Sydney Drop Bears right as I left the Sydney Drop Bears, and there was some overlap there. Worked together briefly, but not for a super long time. And then he actually worked his way. I think he worked over to another organization that I had briefly been a part of. But anyway, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. He knows better than that.
Gator now, and they're trying to play around the Mega Health Pack, but this is such a scary position to play from. There's so much displacement on the side of the Outlaws to knock the Rain off the map. It's Gator, felled by the sticky bombs first though, and the Rain trying to inch closer to retaking this point, but Dante copies up Batiste. We're seeing more and more support duplication
through the window.
Dante's able to find at least a 1 kill for his trouble there. Self-destruct, nothing found. Picky's going to be able to remake.
Happy just getting work done there, okay.
Yeah, and Gator was
where was the supercharger? Because that's a fight that Rain needs to win if they invested that. So let's take a look here. This happens. We invested the supercharger. Oh no, we get rezzed. It looks position-wise like Rain have taken enough of the map. But then we have the BAP window here. Yeah, that mattered a lot.
We're seeing more and more support duplication here.
Supercharger's down, and we just don't really see what's going on there.
Dante's able to find at least
Had D.Va's mech, but she has the
one
second
kill
life,
for his trouble there. Celtic
and his Piggy's able to remech.
nothing found. Piggy's going to be able to remake here, and Gators in deep trouble.
And they're
now.
not quite getting enough done with the supercharger. That's unfortunate. Rain were close to breaking these guys. Like, Rain were close to breaking this. This was just a little bit of minor swings, like getting the remech off. Dante did some work, don't get me wrong, more so than showed up in the feed. Dante was doing some serious work there. But Rain had most of the map control. They almost flipped this, and then not quite.
And Gator was off to the
Okay.
side there originally,
Blaz
but
singing
quite
in
kicked
chat
off
about
when you
happy.
had him
Okay.
drop early. There was really no position or way for the supports to get across or get a line of sight as we'll take a look at this clip again. So the Dynamite gets some of these players low.
Hello.
The Pile Driver,
Look
the
how low.
Nano, boom. Yeah, I mean, that is
That's happy
filthy
across
combo.
the map, I think. Just hitting body shots and
But,
not enough healing coming quickly enough.
But when Gator goes that side of the map, when he goes fast and goes with Hawk there, because of the Ashe and how much damage she does with the damage boost at range, there's no possible way for like Iris or Moss at
Okay.
much damage
That was
she
some
does
nice
with the
cleanup.
damage boost at
What
range.
happened?
There's no
You pre-roll your shift. I don't like that you pre-roll your shift. You hadn't taken damage. That was you just getting scared.
possible way for like Iris or Moss.
And this is a mistake that a lot of BAT players have seemed to be making. Just this,
to make
they're
damage
so
with the
easy to get their
damage
shift
boost
out
at
of.
range. There's no possible
I don't know if you guys are paying attention, but Spilo is doing the scouting reports, and you will see that BAT players on most teams are being really like this is a bad habit that a lot of OWL BAT players have, and we see it here in Iris as well.
possible way for like Iris or Masa to make it through there is 2 quick kills go in favor of the Outlaws. Dante with a nano boost. They've had no answer for him. Really, ever since the first fight was over
Okay.
on the previous map, he's just been able to just run around, just do as he pleases. But yeah, making it pretty difficult for the supports on the Rain to even poke out here. Is now last
Okay.
chance it'll be Gator trying to get a touch on the point.
Gator will get there, has to use the adaptive shielding to do so.
But that should be over.
To get away, especially with the bionic.
The power of the Valk, they got Gator, the positioning isn't good for Rain, they're having to trickle on. Nothing wild. Okay.
It's a one-sided Ilios, especially that second round.
Why does Dreamer not have a... Oh, probably internet? Is he playing from Korea right now and they don't want to chance his internet being worse? Is this just lack of a face camera? It seems really hard to believe lack of a face camera. Okay. Must just be them deciding that they don't want to put any more stress on his internet.
One double hit. After that, the Ashe was a
Okay, let's jump forward here. Obviously, we got to see the matchup of the Orisa versus the Ball, and the Ball comp so far seems to be doing a little bit better here. Their respective takes are, mostly their respective takes have been, let's both play poke comps, which is mostly what we expected because Tracer and Sombra have both been removed from the hero pool, and Tracer is probably the best dive hero. And dive would be the counter to poke, so if we remove the counter to poke, or if we hurt the counter to poke harder than anything else and poke still beats brawl, we would expect to see poke run a little more rampant. So we're seeing both teams play poke, but it's becoming an Orisa versus a Ball. And this is a discussion I actually had, I don't know, just a couple days ago, where it was like, okay, who's really... This was, I think, a discussion centered around Sigma versus D.Va, where I said D.Va's a good poke hero, even if Sigma's technically the, more poke hero. And we had the same discussion, it pivoted to Ball versus Orisa, where even though Orisa might technically be, yes, she's the poke hero, she does more poke, like she has the stronger, she's poke, etc. In practice, I tend to find that Ball enables poke teams more. Not 100%, but in practice, I find Ball tends to actually do more for a poke win condition than Orisa does. That said, Holt is really powerful. Having barrier timings that your team can hit is really powerful. You can definitely win with either. And maybe we'll start looking at the team's barrier timings a little more closely to see how they're playing around Gator or vice versa.
Set your sights on the competition. T-Mobile.
Are we pretending? Is this supposed to... Come on, mouse, don't fight me. Is this supposed to be Alaska? That's... Okay. We're just not doing things to scale. Okay, fine. Whatever. If not the tank, what heroes best define poke then? Best define poke? I mean, for poke, it's probably best defined by... Like, if I would consider... Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's pull up our hero list, because that's a good question. I mean, I think your tanks and supports generally do your most to define the comp, yes. But, like, if I think of the most important hero, like, the best dive hero, it's probably Tracer. And I think we'd all agree with that. Like, the best dive hero is Tracer. The competition for Tracer in the best dive hero role, I mean, realistically, it's like, let's think about our dive heroes. We've got Tracer, we've got Genji, we've got Echo, we've got Sombra. Anything else in here that I really consider a dive hero? Not so much, that maybe someone will say something else. Then in the tank role, we've got Winston, we've got Ball, we've got D.Va. To a lesser degree, we have Zarya. And then in the support role, our dive supports these days really are Zen, Ana, Brig. Those are really your best dive heroes. You could say to a lesser degree Mercy. Those are really what we're looking at. And if you look at this, which is the most important of these? Well, Tracer is the one that doesn't have a good redundancy. Like, of these heroes that I've listed here, the one that is the strongest and doesn't have it. Like, Tracer's best redundancies are this DPS cast down here. Genji is just bad. Sorry, guys. Echo, Sombra, I guess we could have put Doomfist down here. So, like, Echo, Sombra, Doomfist. Sombra's probably the best redundancy, but Sombra also got knocked out. So, like, I'd say Tracer is the most quintessential dive hero at this time. You could say, like, no, it's the tanks that define dive, or it's the Discord that defines dive. And I'd be fine with either of those takes, but the problem that you run into is if you ban Winston, Ball's a pretty good redundancy. If you ban Ball, Winston's a pretty good redundancy. You're never going to ban both of them with how they're currently doing bans, I don't think. I think they're limited to one tank and one support ban, I think. And then D.Va's always going to exist as a partner option. And you, in theory, have Zarya. As a second partner option. If you banned D.Va, you can run Winston Ball or you can run Winston Zarya, and those are meaningfully still poke. I think Tracer is probably the most quintessential there. So if we get into, okay, let's think about this from a poke perspective, I think of the things that define poke best. I really think of that more as the DPS. Like, I really think of the things that define, even though your tank sort of sets your pace for how you're going to play the game, I think it's probably your DPS. Like, for your tanks, reasonable poke tanks are going to be Orisa, Ball, Sigma, D.Va, and to a lesser degree Zarya. Oh, Hog. Okay. Let's throw Hog up here. Like, Poke is pretty flexible with its tank line. Poke is pretty darn flexible with its tank line. I don't think you're going to hit a good ban. You'd have to get, like, Orisa and Ball play Poke differently, but they're both good main tanks for Poke. that's part of the Ball thing. Ball is very good at poke and very good at dive. That's one of the things. It's just can you make his kit weak enough, either by weakening his boops, which made him worse in the poke stuff, or by weakening his adaptive shield, which makes him worse in the dive stage. Can you do that there? So like the best dive hero or the best poke hero, probably, again, it's one of these like there's enough redundancy in the tank, just barely, but there's enough in the tank that I don't think banning a single tank is going to do that. I think it's harder to break poke right now. In terms of the poke hero, I mean, McCree is the strongest tuned hero that is a poke hero right now, but I don't think he's your quintessential poke hero. Because when it comes to true poke and not hybridizing, Ashe is better, Echo is better, Hanzo is solid, Widow is solid. Like, again, there's too much. This is sort of, it's hybrid. Like, this is hard to back up. If you need to protect against dive, this is good. But if you're just going, no, we actually want to be good at poke, we've got a lot of these four do just fine. It's only if you need to be able to protect against dive. If dive wasn't weak, this might be important, but dive is pretty weak right now because Tracer and Sombra are off the board. So I don't know. It'd be hard to pick like what is the single most. You asked a very good question, and I am sitting here not answering it. Think for just one more second here. Technically a poke hero. Technically a poke hero. Technically a poke hero. Poke-ish. If I had to like pick the one that's most necessary for poke, it's probably actually over in the support line. Like it probably is. Now, I mean, again, we have 3 strong poke supports. And unless you're willing to get rid of 2, like there's enough redundancy options for this. No, I don't like it. It's harder to target these than I think it is the others. But you could still target it. Like you could go, hey, Zen is banned and Orisa is banned, or Mercy is banned and Ball is banned. There's things you could do that would still hit poke pretty hard. Okay. I'm sorry I didn't answer your question as well as I'd like to. Because like D.Va Ball are both dive heroes, for example, sure they are. Sure they are. I mean, they are, but the problem with saying they're both dive heroes is, again, Ball is a very strong hybrid, and we're going to call D.Va a dive hero even though Brawl evolved to hard run her over Zarya for ages and eventually started running Sigma. That was an adaptation that has to do with the teams playing a little slower, we'll say, playing more for the angles, understanding that teams are going to mess up less, so they want to play the longer game for angle control and for, hey, we want the increased poke pressure. But, like, you see where I'm going there. And some of that is everything is running hybrids now. Everything has to hybridize a little bit, but D.Va's just super flexible. I mean, yes, calling her dive makes more sense, but as we can see there, if you have strong enough redundancies, it doesn't matter, and if you have strong enough heroes, they will be run regardless. Like, you're not going to destroy poke by getting rid of... If you leave all the poke heroes on the board and you just removed 2 poke supports, so say you removed Zen and Mercy, but you left Bap, you can still run Bap Brig with 4 other poke heroes, and it's still going to be a very strong poke comp.
State of the season, and the Reign are credited with who want to slow position closer, but they've never looked comfortable trying to deal with this constant wrecking ball pressure from Dreamer. Dante.
Okay, let's see how this works on a different map, because the smaller spaces that is Koth, the faster pace that is Koth, is going to favor a Wrecking Ball more than it is Orisa. So let's see if Gator's Orisa is going to bring it back here.
We saw a lot of teams go towards Wrecking Ball defensive setups, which typically hasn't been like something that teams have done in the past. Like, Wrecking Ball has always been pretty prominent on the offensive side of things.
No, Mr. X, no. Like, some of that is true in terms of what's happened, but that's just teams not understanding kill boxes on defense, not understanding, okay, you pass the point, this is where we want to trigger it, etc. Like, it's just like when teams were like, oh, well, we can't run dive, is so much easier to run on offense than defense. Well, sort of, but you just have to understand what your dive spots are. It still works. And at the owl level, this isn't something they should struggle with. This is something they should be struggling with on ladder and, like, I don't know, through plat maybe. And an organized player, you know, they should, in organized play, they should solve that by silver.
It's kind of a huge win for Wrecking Ball as
High silver.
Atlanta, they'll come out with the Orisa and the D.Va.
If anything, it sort of seems like D.Va Ball, Echo, Ana, cameo from Ash Mercy is more like a hybrid than Poke. Well, yeah, that's the thing. And I actually discussed this on my collab with Spyler that we did a couple months ago, where we've sort of entered the era of hybrids. Heroes aren't designed, or heroes that survived aren't heroes that can do one thing anymore. We've got the Echo is a pretty good hybrid Poke Diver. We've got the Ball is a pretty good... Sorry, my mouse is fighting me. We have the Ball is a pretty... I'm just going to swap mice. The Ball is a pretty good dive poke hybrid. We have the other things that we get into our hybrids are going to be McCree is a poke brawl hybrid. We have D.Va is whatever she wants to be. Yeah, whatever she wants to be. So like that, it's kind of the era of the hybrids. Having one way to play the game doesn't really work. You sort of need to have the, okay, we have this, and sometimes you even use your ults to flip the script completely. Like you take a brawl comp and go, hey, we're a brawl comp that has a couple poke elements, like BAP, you know, okay, cool. And we go, okay, we are a brawl comp, but now we flip the script with High Noon or with Window, etc. And now our poke is stronger than the other team. Like it's become interesting to watch it evolve. If anything, it sort of seems like D.Va, Ball, Echo, Ana with a cameo from Ash Mercy is more like a hybrid than Poke. Yeah, it's definitely a hybrid, but what is it a hybrid of? And the answer is it's a hybrid of Poke and Dive. It's a hybrid of Poke and Dive leaning more towards Poke. Unless you mean the specific word hybrid, which is what sometimes the late 2020 comp was called, but yes, it is that too. But that comp was a hybrid of poke and dive primarily. So what elo are these teams, silver and plat? You have multiple mice handy in your desk? I have multiple because I have different mice for different things. Like I have my G502. Oh, I can't show it on. Oh, I can. I have my G502 that I like as my general purpose mouse for use, etc. But then I have a Naga with a bajillion side mouse buttons that I use for some games, etc. Because I like having a bajillion buttons on the mouse, the numpad on the side there, for things that are more MMO-like, Dragon Age-like, things that use that kind of, here, have 12 abilities on each action bar, etc. Yeah, I mean, G502, I think I showed. Yep, nothing crazy. And then what I had plugged in was the Naga as well. I like that the Naga has a bajillion buttons, but I find the optical sensor on the Naga is funky. Even if you clean it, even if you keep your mouse pad clean, that thing either goes bad fast or just acts up frequently. And even when I'd replace that thing every year or so, it would act up within about a year again, and it was like I don't want to keep buying new mice for that, so I just swapped over to the G502, which has served me much better. But a G502 is, you know, much less button heavy than having a numpad accessible to your thumb. I think the Nagas, like 10 years ago, I think Razer had pretty solid manufacturing, and I think unfortunately they've downgraded their manufacturing a couple times. I may have to delete this video if they come back and sponsor me, but it's the sort of thing where I've found that they had pretty good quality. Like I had one maybe 10 years ago that lasted 2 or 3 years and was fine. because that's fine out of a mouse with how much I use them. I understand that I am a heavy computer user, and that's going to cause things to wear through fine. That's good. That it'd be fair that G502 has lasted that long without any trouble. But like I then noticed it moved after that to okay, these have to be replaced like every year, or these go bad in 9 months, etc. type thing, and that I'm not really a fan of. I think the quality of their manufacturing dropped off. I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, 7 years ago, something like that. G502 is much better. Yeah. Can confirm my Naga fell apart instantly. Yep. Blad a G600. G502. We all like our G502. It's a Logitech with a ton of buttons on the 5. Oh, on the side. Oh, the 600. Okay, I'll look into that then. Every Razer keyboard I've owned has the key stuck bug. Yeah, I found spotty left clicks on the Naga. That developed on one of mine. Mostly it was the optical sensor that would go. No, maybe two of mine. I don't know, I've probably had 3 or 4 Nagas. Before I just said, forget it, I'll accept that I'll rotate between these two, but I'll use my G502 as the everyday mouse, and that's worked well for me. Yeah, no, that makes sense. But you know, it's like having different tools for different jobs. It's like having different tools in your toolbox for different jobs, where it's like, hey, you have your general purpose, you have your I need to go through this, you have your I need to go through this. Yeah. Okay. Back to what was I talking about? I was reviewing a Houston versus Reign match, but before that, Levy and I were talking about hybrids. Right. Yeah, I think we're sort of in the air in the hybrid, like Spylo and I were talking about in the collab that we did a couple months ago. You could definitely go back and check that out if you haven't. It's a pretty educational one on the history of Overwatch, the history of compositions. Between the two of us, we've coached a lot of different Overwatch compositions. Though there's about a year I was gone for in there that he's basically just telling me about the history, and then there's some time before he started coaching that I can tell him about. But I think we mostly didn't go back that far because that's a long time ago in the history of Overwatch world. Definitely pre-Al. Anyway, G600 is on sale now on Amazon for $32. Okay, I might be grabbing one of those in a second.
Yet again, so see if they're able to make it work here in Hollywood.
Yeah, I think they see the Echo and immediately switch off of the Sigma. Just really didn't want to have to deal with it. Double shield is all well and good until...
Okay, so here they are. They have to think about how they're going to break into this. We have Outlaws. Outlaws, I'd like to rewind just a little bit to see where they're holding from. That's a really passive spot from Dreamer. Is he just going to go in for an explosive dive on them? Like, you can't, Dreamer. You need to come in from an angle. Your team's not going to follow you for an aggressive dive. Like, yes, you can do it better than Winston can because that's your hero, but even so, you should still play this from an angle unless you have a very hard follow-up. Like, you're not going to have a Doomfist follow-up or something. Okay, they're surrendering high ground. You always have to, but that was a pretty cheap surrender.
Doesn't give him any line.
You're trying happy.
Maybe just didn't want to kind of get dove straight away or make himself an easy target for the Echo.
It's definitely a safer way to play. As a result, the Outlaws still have 6 players standing. Kai.
We have seen it's the Echo or the Ashe on both sides.
Turn his head to look for Dreamer, who's constantly seems to be nipping at his heels.
Dreamer's over there. Yeah, they've managed to retake pretty good positioning here. So you guys saw that they surrendered space, Outlaws, but then they've managed to get their Echo Mercy combination over here. They've managed to get their ball over there. They've done a good job of retaking this space in the chaos. Retaking their angles.
Okay, a couple sticky bombs there, but a gigantic biotic grenade from Crimzo is going to catch 3.
Yeah, he wasn't in the great. It was okay, but like that was a 1v2 that he wasn't really supported for.
But this is where the rest of the Outlaws can spring into action. Pelican, his feathers are ruffled, suffice to say, as he takes to the sky to try.
Should be fine for Outlaws.
But Dante escapes and finds another kill elsewhere. It's Hawk after the D-Mech now being removed, and Irisa. Dante escapes and finds another kill elsewhere.
Okay.
Hawk after the.
It's right at 50%. Does he have shift? No, he has shift. You...
Removed and
Oh, interesting. Okay.
gets away just. Pelicans able to finish off Dante with a focusing beam here in the Atlanta Reign, keeping this pressure coming. But Gator can't get anywhere. You'd think 4 legs would make you a little bit faster, but the battle cow gets tipped, and Dreamer is back in action at full health.
Wish there was a good cheap mouse with 12 buttons on the side. I mean, maybe. It sounds like Blah's telling us the G600 has a bunch of buttons on the side and is $32 right now on Amazon. So, might want to check that out. I'm going to check that out after this. You know what? We're talking mice. The stream is enjoying it. Let's take a look at the G600. Yeah, I mean, that's, if this is solid, and this says just 25, that's, who knows. If this mechanically stands up well, this is basically their answer clearly to the Naga, and if it stands up even half as well as their G502, it'll be significantly better than the Naga. I wonder why, if it's just, oh, it's not as flashy and colorful or whatever, it's priced this low, to be quite honest, because if this stands up well, yes, you have to fight against perhaps, like, Logitech does fine in the mouse space right now, and Logitech is known in the mouse space to be pretty durable right now, though the success of the 502 had some to do with that. I'm wondering why this isn't like front page everywhere, go get this as your many button mouse, etc. for this type of thing. Maybe it's just that people have moved away from that mouse in general, that type of mouse in general. Interesting, as game controls tend not to require that anymore with what's popular in gaming currently. It's a little less the open world, you need a million buttons, and a little more the FPS, the battle royale, etc. Cool. Okay, back to our Overwatch review.
Come back on Echo, but I'm not sure this is going to be enough, as you'll have Dreamer.
So we're trying to do this. Outlaws stabilized. They did give up 2 ticks though.
Bob buys a ton of time here. Gives a lot of time, in fact, for Piggy to return to the fight, who has the self-destruct available, so that's free remake essentially, plus potential kill.
Really, Gator?
Fight, who has the self-destruct available.
So you use that Bob in there.
Plus potential.
And you just decide that you're going to close range fight this. You're pushing in off the Bob. Yeah, okay.
Gator going to throw the shield down, but it's still going to be pressured from behind. Piggy just keeping it coming here.
And they're going to get crushed out again.
As Bob gets deployed to the point, but Iris is down.
Map control is pretty powerful, guys.
Healing had to be a resurrect there, and the risk that Master took pays off. At least he returns his Batiste back to the fight, but Dante springs alive once more.
Yeah, what the Outlaws are doing here in terms of their defensive setups, in terms of how they're reclaiming and getting control of the map, even if they initially get pushed into, what they're doing to get their concaves back is looking really good.
He is just so good on the Echo. It's something that I mentioned the last map as Kyle take out.
Whereas, like, if I can get a good view of the map, I'll talk about what Rain did in that last push. I'm not sure they're going to give me one. Okay. Whereas Rain are like, hey, let's send Kai in here. That's good. Let's send Gator around here, which is good. But then when Gator comes around here, you don't have control of this anymore. You just have a Gator on point. So you don't have control of this angle anymore. And I'd like to see some more established of that, or some more established of this, etc. so that we have our multiple angles to support it. Gator's not going to be able to live on point, even though, yes, Gator might go, hey, I can fight a diva, hey, I can do this, I have my shield, I have fortify, I'll make her leave, etc. Like, you want to grind your way into this, force them off the map. It looks like Rain are rushing things a little bit, and that's allowing Outlaws to retake spots like this while maintaining this, while taking control of this, etc. And then, let me do this with different colors. Rain, as the fight evolves, versus Outlaws as the fight evolves. This These yellow X's are better. These yellow X's are better, and I think we can all see that. Like, and I don't mean, oh, they're better players. I mean, these are better positioning that they're able to re-get control of, and this shouldn't be able to happen. Like, it should not be a case of you can get back control of this when the situation is, when you've done this, when the rain have come in, rather. It should be a case of, hey, we've cleared this, and maybe we've even kept this. Okay, maybe we sent someone from here up to here, but if so, we've already got control of this, or we have someone still holding this. Maybe that's our BAP sight line holding this, or better yet, our BAP sight line holding this, etc.
Tracer and the Sombra, which are gone, so maybe you expect a little bit of a down tournament for him overall, but his Echo is just lights out. This will be a supercharger.
Yeah, I think.
Things off.
There we go.
Throw in a self-destruct. He'll take out the supercharger, but at the meantime, it's going to be Happy taking out Pelican. You're not sure if you're going to be able to res this as well.
I think it's far too risky a position to get that resurrect. Dante's about to fall back.
Don't force that, Dreamer. Why? Dreamer?
A position to get that resurrect.
Okay. But why would you go in there? Like, going in there for an instant, maybe, but why would you fight? You went in there for an instant because you didn't want to get shot down main, and what you do as soon as you see someone is you just leave and go fight here. Your team is not in it. This is not the engagement timing or window that your team wants. You are spending health, trading unevenly with a DPS, when your DPS aren't in a position to do anything. This is not right.
Dante's about to fall back for a moment
And look, because of that, Dreamer, instead of being at 400 health, is at like 90 health.
here. Just in and out, comfortable stuff here. Throws his sticky bombs over towards that side room as Gator is 10.
Okay. Did we lose Happy because we were busy healing Dreamer up from his escapades? Like,
Trying to make his way forward.
we're certainly surrendering space because Dreamer is having to be healed up from a bad trade.
That is what the Rainbow.
And now Rain are going to push in. Rain aren't doing the best job with their push in, though. This is still one angle that they're really controlling.
Pick there, but he's not shielded by Gator's barrier, so he has to back away and play a little safe. Happy return to the fight, but Juby goes down as the price he pays for returning his compatriot. Hawk looks pretty befuddled there. Going down to Happy's Dynamite just after the action is brought back into the fight. Picky now has to go for full stall. Dream has gone down, so all of the scrutiny is leveraged at the Diva, but Bob's back again. More time buys here as both Bobs stare each other down on the point, but there's no durability.
No, this goes to Rain. Yeah.
So,
So, again, you guys saw how that happened. Like, there was another mistake that happened on Outlaw's side, don't get me wrong, but, like, losing 300 health there, Dreamer losing 300 health meant that, hey, this person isn't getting supported. Hey, this team can push in more easily. Hey, our DPS are just waiting behind this wall, or our Echo Mercy combo is just waiting behind this wall because they can't push yet because their ball isn't a credible threat, etc. when they want to go in on their angle. Like, you guys saw spending 300 health when your team can't do anything, even as Ball, who's super mobile and can go get health backs and can go do all those things, can be very expensive.
I was gonna say, you can't take the point here for Atlanta. I mean, that was best case scenario in terms of the picks. Crimzo actually ends up getting a nano towards the end. Like, maybe if you had a tank there, it could get a little bit more interesting, but Atlanta gets the point.
Okay,
Get the cart moving.
Outlaws are once
So
again
really
set
good
for their
to-
high ground control. They're going to try to take the other high ground. They've got
They get,
it.
like, 2 fights,
Where is... There's our Ashe, so where's our Echo?
you know, gets you to potentially like an overtime type of scenario. And with where the
This is going to be tough. Like, Atlanta, pushing this card is not going to be fun. You're going to have to go take the high ground. And Gator on the card is not your solution. I still want to know where our Echo is for Outlaw's side. Over here, okay. No Mercy support, but you do have the
So
tanks.
they've been able to nano Dante, and he's been able to do some good things. He's got the duplicate.
Fine.
A lot of ways you can kind of solve
Okay, then they do try and send Gator up here.
this cart out.
This feels like Outlaw's backline was a little slow to get up here to support this, because you would have liked to punish the Atlanta harder. Like you saw some punishment from the 2 tanks and from the Echo when the Reign were trying to rotate through their tanks through here, which they were always going to have to do, but I would have expected to bring our backline up a little bit more to join in on that. It potentially means surrendering quite as good a control on cart. You have better control of cart if you're split here and here between the 2 high grounds, but these are good teams that knew they were never actually going to push cart, so that they were going to have to come up and challenge it. So I would have preferred, as you see the Orisa leaving, that your front line is coming forward a little bit more, or your back line is, to support this so you can get more damage on them on their way up. Do I play the game anymore or only do VOD reviews? I mostly only do coaching stuff, VOD review stuff, etc. I'll play a little bit here and there, but it's the sort of thing where, I mean, you guys know how this works. If you do something competitive and you don't do it a ton, or you don't do it super seriously, it just sort of becomes like, oh, I did this. It's hard for me to do something competitive without going hard in on it, without being like, oh, I really, I'm going to be like, let me play this hard, let me do this a lot, etc. Which, that's perhaps a personal failing on my part. It's hard for me to casually do something that is competitive. I can casually do other things, but casually doing something that is competitive can be a little bit challenging. So you get into I'm I it's okay, but I really do prefer coaching the game. Like, I really do prefer coaching the game because, I understand this game very, very, very well. And, I can still play the game, but it's like, okay, not as good as I once was type thing, which, that's fine. And no, that's not just a people got better at the game.
Get this into overtime pretty quick if you're Houston.
Dante gets a nano here. Who's the duplicate?
So, no, mostly I'm doing coaching.
Targets? I can't duplicate an Echo, mate. Okay, he's going to be able to beam.
Okay.
It's going to be a duplicated one in his face now. Pelican not really on the cusp of self-destruct here, or a remake. He gets it now. Dante, okay, we're still duplicating supports in 2021. Fair enough.
Interesting. So here you are.
Face now.
You go in here, you have your minefield, you're playing in your own minefield. You think you can get that. You don't. Really? Why did you...
Pelican not really on the cusp of self-destruct.
Because you went down to 95? Okay, that's why. Well, you really went down to 64, so you just go, we have to do this to survive. Fair.
Okay, we're still duplicating supports in 2021. Fair enough. He'll be pressured down, knocked out. Remember, he only goes to 100 HP now. Still, he's able to make his escape.
Yeah, but you're almost always going to have your flight cooldown back by the time it's over.
No, I think
you should still play it for fun. I still play a little for fun.
he was trying to get the duplicate on the Ana, hit the biotic grenade, so the Mercy pocket obviously wouldn't do much, and then maybe finish her off and get an nano boost. Pelican will take out Dante in the sky. That's huge. This will burn the res. Minute and 30 though.
Yeah, I still play a little bit for the game for fun, and I think it's important to play a little bit just to get a feel for what do some of these changes feel like. Because I can read numbers, I can do all this stuff, I have a very good grasp of the game, I get to see scrims, I get to make changes in scrims, etc. But actually getting to feel it a little bit does help.
On the clock is not a ton of time. This will be Gator using the supercharger. This will allow the Atlanta Reign to get around the corner at least.
Dante's died 2 times in the last 5 seconds. He's brought back into the fight again, though.
Has he? It's a little unusual for Dante. Let's see what's going on.
Will take out, obviously wouldn't do much.
So here's our Pelican. Oh, okay, so that right there, sure.
Get a nano boost. Pelican will take out Dante in the sky. That's huge.
On the ground, not so much in the sky. Will we ever see a temporal quick play or a comp game or in scrim? Maybe. Maybe. I don't know.
Minute and 30 though. On the clock is.
Never say never.
Not a ton of time. This will be Gator using the supercharger. This will allow the Atlanta Reign to get around the corner at least.
Dante's died.
You're more likely to see me just get annoyed and start hard shot calling a game from the bench for a team that I'm coaching. You're more likely to see me do that. which is a useful coaching tool, and that I can do that is in my skill set from my time as a player, is useful to teams that I'm coaching, but it's really only useful in a specific manner of showing teams this is what it should look like type thing, so that they can understand that and they can build towards something like that. Because when you have a team, especially a team that doesn't have a ton of experience in organized play, even if they themselves are pretty good. They don't have a bunch of players that have been on teams where they've had good shot calling. Even if they weren't doing it, it can be a little hard to get them going. It's a little hard to just be like, well, this is what it sounds like. Even if you just show them recordings or something with calls, it's not the easiest thing to learn. When it happens in their game, in their scrim, and suddenly the right targets are being called, the demands for the ult tracking are there, the rotations are being called, etc. When that happens, that can, used briefly, be useful for sort of jump starting their engine. And it can also be useful to sure showing them the path, and it can also be useful for jump starting the engine in the early days when a team is still getting comfortable with doing calls in general, because it serves as a good reminder of, oh shoot, we're not doing this. Look at how much this helps when it happens, even just for one team fight. Temporal review of himself. That'd be awesome. I could.
2 times in the last 5 seconds. He's brought back into the fight again, though. And we'll see the Reign start to push up.
But as I've said before, 4,700 players are bad at Overwatch. And while I don't tell people what my SR is, it's somewhere between 0 and 4,800. Which means I'm bad at Overwatch. Because I think everyone is bad at Overwatch.
Charger laid down, and that's what really buys the Reign that window to push forward. There'll be a self-destruct on the other side here, and Happy wants to try and generate this bomb as quickly as possible. Kai has one of his own.
So are we.
Here.
Yes,
Okay,
yes, we all are.
So, I mean, it's just as well that Coach Kane came in just a little bit before the sleep dart.
Okay.
Dante nano boosted, but it doesn't really seem to matter. Pelican Kai has one of his own, though, and here, okay, there it is.
So you go for the echo from here.
I
mean, you guys are totally pinned at this point. Rain are just going to finish this. Yep.
Self-destructs from both teams find their individual kills on each other, but the Reign will keep
okay.
And they're starting to build up some momentum in this conversation.
They do have some momentum.
Really
I'd
nice
like to get a little more view of what Gator's doing. Like, I want to see how this team is operating around Gator now, because on first point, they weren't controlling angles. Here, everyone on right side? No one left?
Mid-air, the wrecking ball contributes nothing to that fight. It kind of leaves the D.Va out to dry in front of the payload. So big sleep there from Iris, allowing the Atlanta Reign to get that second checkpoint. Now,
so what's the rate for a temporal quick play game and comp game plus temporal review at the end? I don't know, Blah, because I'm still hesitant to do that. And the reason I'm hesitant to do that is what you run into is my peak again is not 4,900, which means there are players out there who have higher peaks than I have. My peak might be 300 SR. It's not, but it might be. My peak might be 4,600 SR. My peak might be 3,200 SR. My peak might be 2,600 SR. My peak might be 1,800 SR. It doesn't really matter. I understand the game, etc. I know the game, whatever. My peak could be 4,200. Let's just get some more numbers up here. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter what my peak actually is. But the problem that you run into is people that are looking for coaching. Like, I'm going to coach, and I will continue to coach players that are above 4,600. And if they know that they've peaked higher than me, the problem that creates is experienced players this won't be a problem for, because they've all worked with coaches and they understand, like, hey, if this person can help me get better, that's important. But the problem is you do work with hot shots, you do work with people that haven't had experience, that haven't done a lot of professional play before, etc. And they don't intentionally do it, but they do, and sometimes they do intentionally do it. I'm only going to hear the parts that I want to because I know better than this person. That's not a problem I really have because I've had professional success. Like I've got 3 different top 3 finishes in contenders, and that's back when contenders there was only 2 a season, not when there was like 6 a season. So like those are, hey, I know exactly what I'm doing, and that's fine. And that's not a problem then when I work with these players, even if my SR was 300, like that doesn't matter. But the thing that you run into is even when players don't necessarily mean to do this, even when they have the best intentions, you can get a little bit, especially if you don't have titles like I have, of a, hey, I'm only going to hear the parts that I want to, and I'm going to dismiss this. And that doesn't lead to a very good coaching structure situation. And part of why I then don't share my SR, even because, again, it's not 4,900, I'll tell you that much. Part of why I don't share my SR is because even though I'm not too worried about that situation, because I'm okay, I'm gonna have to coach this 4,700 player, and maybe my peak isn't that high, and so they're going to dismiss some things, not like maliciously, but just because they're protecting their own ego. Like that's a very human thing to do. So like, do I want to do that? And also, do I want to make it harder for coaches that haven't had my success, that don't have my record, by going, oh yes, the standard is I kind of do it as a favor to other coaches out there to be like, you know what? It shouldn't really be a thing to ask your coach what his SR is, or to even know what your coach's SR. What people should be valuing their coaches on is, did you take this team from gold to diamond? Did you take this team from tier 3 to trials? Where did you finish in contenders? Did you take this team from expected to finish in low in open division to finishing middle of the road in open division? That's what you should be judging coaches on. But too often, if you have coaches SRs, coaches are going to get judged like asking a coach for their SR is sort of like asking someone who's been in the work world for, I don't know, 10, 15 years. Well, we need to see your high school transcripts. No, you do not. And I know that's not what is being done here. You guys are just like, hey, we want to see Temporal review his own gameplay, etc. And like, I totally get that, but I'd sort of be stabbing some coaches in the back who are operating from a more difficult place when they might be, I don't know, plat, diamond, silver, masters, whatever. Anything that is below 4,600 is going to create issues for some people when they're having to coach better players, if that makes sense. And I know, Krusty's plat, I think that's Krusty's peak, and I know that, and people sort of know that, but there's still an internal ego protecting thing that happens to some players when you're coaching them. Yeah, your peak isn't interesting. What you do in game is. I don't want to be discriminated against. I mean, I'm not going to be discriminated against. I've got plenty. I'm seasoned enough that my peak literally could be 300 and it wouldn't matter. But yeah, I don't want to make it more difficult for other people, and it could be a little tough with some of the young hotshots with no experience if my peak were, I don't know, 300, for example. Obviously, it's not. Uh, your Can of Gold player coach video, what about it, Mercedes? I mean, I did just sort of do a recap of that video right here because that was the discussion we were having. I don't care about other coaches. Right, but like, I don't want to. I've worked with some of these people, and like, I've worked with, like, I did have a certain person I've worked with in mind when I was talking about the Can of Gold player coach work. Can a Gold player coach someone I've worked with? I don't think I said who it was in the video, but I did have that in mind. And it's like, there's people I've worked professionally with who they were gold and they were very good coaches. So like, but you can see how that would run into resistance with players. You follow what I'm saying? I don't want to make their jobs harder.
Pelican.
I mean, we could blah, but I'm not actually. I'm not actually 300 SR. That was an example, an intentionally unbelievably low example to prove the point.
The Outlaws adamant. They want to control the high ground. They hang around for so long and they take some risks.
I'm not either, but don't tell anyone. Okay, okay.
But it's the
Control the high ground even more with another diva.
Okay, so let's go back here.
And kind of leaves the diva out to dry in front of the payload. So big sleep there from Iris, allowing the Atlanta Reign to get that second checkpoint. And now
You're lucky Jumbo isn't here for the 300 SR joke. He'll probably leave it in the comments.
Pelican with this duplicate, maybe kind of take control of the high.
But I don't know that Jumbo wants to take any shots right now, because any shots that Jumbo takes right now are, what's that? Not GM? Couldn't make GM? 4 SR short? You know, like, I don't know that Jumbo wants to take shots until that's a little less fresh. Jumbo can read the map sheet. Okay, so they were fighting over the high ground. Surrendered that. Meh.
It seems to pay off. Dreamer is, well, in Timbuktu presently. He's just trying to find himself that mega. He'll get it, but in his absence,
shouldn't be able to get the finish there.
So it's a 5v5 trade, and of course the Mercies bring them back. We're now back to square one here. The Atlanta Reign is still trying to push.
Yeah, again, I don't really love that timing from Dreamer. Like, the fight's happening, so I'm gonna live with it. I'm gonna live with that.
But in his absence, Dante is taken down. So it's a 5v5 trade, and of course the Mercies bring them back. We're now back to square one here, and the Atlanta Reign is still trying to push forward. Dreamer goes down to the focusing beam, but happy.
Okay, are Atlanta Reign gonna reestablish high ground? Like, your win in that last fight, Reign, was based off of you matching them on high ground and getting a one-dimensional fight. If you get the one-dimensional fight, your risk is going to favor you, but you shouldn't expect to get the one-dimensional fight. You need to go get control of the angles. Okay, good. Our twin divas. This isn't great. Can we get better left control? You have the Mercy, Kai.
A good dynamite here. One or two shots. You have another Bob, which would be massive. This will be.
Okay, good. That's going to do it.
Taking control of the diva. He's already.
No. You can't then surrender it. Winning that wasn't just about getting eliminations, it was about actually getting the position.
Out of that mech, though.
You earned the position. Oh my goodness.
Great start here. Again, they're going to be traded out, though. The Echo's getting involved in a lot of these kills. Dreamers struggle to have an impact.
That could still work, but now we have the duplicate coming out from Houston, and they have their minds going, yeah, they probably get to stabilize here.
So much more CC aimed at the ball. Piggy is back though, and Dante gets knocked out of his duplication. He's able to back away.
That supercharge is kind of shallow. Like, the team, there's not good enough positions from Reign to take advantage of it.
Also bought a little bit of time. The self-destruct may clear some.
Control of this is absolutely critical. And Reign, like, fought for it and then left. Like, they fought for it, they were winning, and then they left. And they sort of, for the first portion of this fight, it's more over here that they did it. They fought for it, and that worked. It forced a one-dimensional fight. That was good for them, and they were able to win off of that. Here, they fought for it. They sort of won it, and then they left, and now they're struggling to get back in, even though they went up early in the fight. These angles matter, guys.
Get back to the car, and they do. That supercharger, though, that's going to be dangerous.
The supercharger could be able to push them over the line, especially with Juby down now. You lose Piggy. This should be the Atlanta Reign completing the map. 30 seconds on the clock left. You mentioned it, though. They started to do a much better job of dealing with that Wrecking Ball. Wrecking Ball can be coming around. Very difficult to kind of...
So they did finish that off. I'm just belly aching. Let me go back here.
That's gonna be
here we are.
The supercharger could be able to push them over the line, especially with Juby.
Ultimately are able to ground it out with the self-destruct to create that last bit of space. But that was very one-dimensional, and it was very dependent on getting control of that to finish getting in here, and it shouldn't have been. Okay.
Down now, you lose Piggy. This should be the Atlanta Reign completing the map.
And once it gets that close, it's hard, because obviously they can't anchor quite how they'd like on the point, because they are running the... I mean, their tanks aren't there, and they're running the dive tanks. Okay.
Wonder if they... We've only seen him really play the Wrecking Ball thus far.
I think that The switch obviously away from the Baptiste you sort of mentioned about managing the Wrecking Ball. These static comps definitely benefit from Baptiste, especially now that Batiste's a lot. You can guarantee a higher level of throughput. Annoying factors is we know BAP doesn't really bring any crowd control to the fight. So here it is. I want to see how the Reign deal with what has to be an echo from Dante now playing double shield.
You don't have the Ana for like a sleep or a biotic.
So no real swaps here other than Atlanta Reign. Well, not no real swaps. Atlanta Reign is making some changes. Now that they are playing defense, they've decided to go with Hawk on the Sigma instead of the Diva, and they're back with Iris on the BAP here. So that is going to... They're running that. Lots of heals that you can offer for Gator. Hawk will hold an off angle, but their ability to retake. They will not be able to retake space on first the way that Outlaws was constantly doing. On the other hand, they will be harder to extract from the spots that they hold in the first place with the healing that the BAP can do, with how hard it is to remove Sigmas. So I expected the fight this time to be a little less over point and a little more about what's sort of in front of the point. Because if you can get Rain gone, they're not going to retake on you. But
way to go about it, right?
Where's our Sigma holding?
Try and take out one.
Okay.
So, okay, Dreamer will actually switch and go to Winston. So
interesting. Are we going to see like a more divey comp here? Really? Happy on the Genji, Dreamer on the Winston?
Genji come out here for the Outlaws as they want to get aggressive. They want to dive straight into the back line of the Reign.
I don't hate this is an answer to Ana either. Dreamer obviously can pressure to that. That's a...
How's that going to work? You're playing into BAP. I don't think so. I don't think they're going to get Lamp out reliably enough. I don't think Houston are going to get Lamp out reliably enough before dives. And I think sustaining in these dives, like Genji's not going to be able to do enough work if you didn't get Lamp out pre-dive. And you're not going to be able to just instantly delete lamps the same way. Like, yes, your lamps are still going to go down quickly, but the time difference matters. I don't have high hopes for this, to be perfectly honest. The advantage that they have is, hey, we are playing into full poke here. The peel on this team is not great. Double poke DPS, no flanker, no close range guy, no McCree, nothing like that. Is a little more vulnerable to having a dive DPS here. And there's not like a Brig here or anything. This is Bat Mercy. That said, Bat Mercy aren't particularly vulnerable themselves. They're pretty self-sustaining, not terribly vulnerable. They're not like a Brig. There's no Brig or Lucio that makes it like super hard to deal with either of them. But they themselves aren't terribly vulnerable. Strong shift, strong mobility, self-healing. Like this is yeah. So the weak point almost becomes you can dive her or him and get value. But this isn't like super vulnerable to dive, and it's not like Genji wants to really be playing with Sigma there. He'd prefer to be going after squishier targets. Okay.
Less mobile backline quite effectively and won't get trolled by Exo Boots if Iris is trying to...
Coordinated dive gets very little initial burst value.
That's definitely the story, but
already has the pocket, and Dreamer's gone. Good news is Genji gets to live back here.
It could be such a problem for them to deal with, and there's nothing to shut him down if he gets that blade ready in terms of CC. Unless you get a lucky rock. So the Outlaws just want to build up here to a big...
I think you're getting ahead of yourself here, Uber. That Genji's at 17% ult charge.
Dante and Juby behind enemy lines. Need to keep them up. Atlanta knows that they're coming from that area. This will be kind of a setup play with the Nano onto the Winston.
They're going to follow up Dreamer as much as they can, but they see a juicier target. Hawk is standing away from Gator right now.
Are you really going to grind this out? So you did get the advantage of getting your Genji and Yurka behind, and you've been able to get them stabilized, and they haven't been flushed out. So you now do have angles for your dive, which is very powerful. And are you actually going to hit a dive, or are you just going to grind this out? And you got your Mercy back there too. They needed to be cleared better than they were. That's not super easy, but it needed to happen. Now this happens. And now do you see a dive?
You're going to follow.
No. Your Winston is going to distract the BAP, it looks like. Well, are we going to get coordination on this? Yeah, well, your DPS are going to try and take out the Sigma. Sigma's a valid dive target. That's fine. But then the Nano answers that. I assume that's a Nano? No, that's not a Nano. He was just glowy for some reason. Okay, so they are able to take that down. I assume that was a Nano Monkey that took down the BAP, and then we saw our DPS combination took down Sigma, and you only lost your Ana in return. Yeah, I mean, they got in too cheaply. This is what we're referring to, where if you're a poke team, this is where I was saying they needed to clear. If you're a poke team, you need to put pressure on the divers so that a well-staged full health dive never happens. They can't be allowed to come from their staged positions with full health. And Genji, Dante, and Mercy were totally allowed to do that. I'm sure some pressure was put on Dreamer on the way in, as he was setting up, etc., but clearly not enough. And it was questionable whether that was always ever going to be an option of putting it on Dreamer, because he was always going to get the Nano, so the pre-damage to it wasn't really going to matter. He was going to get saved, and it wasn't going to cost Ana a bunch of resources because she was always going to Nano the Dreamer. So, needed to clear this better. Don't have the best tools to do it, and it's short sightlines once you get behind this point to get back in. Okay.
Down though, so there is a trade there, a very hard-fought elimination onto the Sigma, and for the Outlaws, there's not enough of a lead here in terms of player.
No, this will be a fight win for the Reign. Pelican using his Primal Rage there to finish off Dante.
Going back here though, so we were here. Atlanta Reign got both of those, so they do that with our Hawk and our Iris eliminations, but then everyone is low health on Outlaws, so this is the moment where if Atlanta Reign can get trade backs right now, they win, and if they can't, they lose. There's one trade back.
A very hard-fought elimination onto the Sigma.
There's two trade backs, and that's over.
For the Outlaws, there's not enough of a lead here in terms of player.
No, this will be a fight win for the Reign. Pelican using his Primal Rage.
So they just needed to restabilize, and they couldn't find a window to do so, which isn't terribly surprising.
Finish off Dante, and I'm almost surprised it went that route, as Happy gets picked off here at the end. Crimzo with yet another sleep. This one onto Kai, as Kai is up on the high ground on the Ash, just
where's our Sigma playing from? Is our Sigma back? Okay, Sigma's wanting security again.
To be able to come out on top.
Sigma security, Kai high ground.
Now they're able to hold on some ults. Kai, though, here, being able to take out Crimzo, you're going to have to wait or burn the res. You will burn the res to bring him back.
This is a better hold of space that they control from Atlanta Reign than we saw in Ilios.
That's a crack shot from Kai. That was not, Crimzo was not playing aggressively there necessarily at all. Kai just finds this really nice little keyhole shot. And another pick here on Happy means that the Outlaws are further way late.
Happy goes into the choke, takes a shot, another shot from Pelican, and then the beam to be able to focus up a Mercy boost as well. That would have pretty much nuked down a tank, let alone a Genji. So Kai backs up. He has a Bob. You can play a little bit safer here. Use that Bob to solve the point.
Here we go. Supercharger and Gravitic Flux. Kai trying to set up in the guard tower here, as I'll call it, and he's pretty safe. Not a whole lot the Outlaws can do. If Dreamer wants to dive that position, he has to walk onto the point and then jump, or do it from the high ground. And it's nigh
That's the easy one because they had Supercharger. This next one, they should use Valk for the hold. And the real opening for Outlaws is probably going to be, Outlaws can try to force this one to be the opening, but the real opening is probably Outlaws win first in overtime. They've got a minute here. That should be two fights. This fight should effectively get canceled by Atlanta Reign popping Valk as long as they're not late on their Valk. And then the next fight should be, okay, Outlaws just overwhelm Reign with ults. It's possible that Outlaws will try to pull the trigger this fight, and then things get a little more up in the air. Because if they do that, and Massa still Valks, then you're in you're trying to win with your Nano Monkey, or you're trying to win with your Nano Blade and duplicate, etc.
time with the
when there's a lot of poke pressure
Supercharger,
coming
he's
out.
able to take out Juvi,
Why
he's
did we
able to
zoom
out
in on
right away.
people's health? Why did we zoom in on people's health and get rid of... Weird.
Actually,
That
nothing
was
about,
weird.
Out of the Valking Mercy is just one shot out of the sky pretty much does it there for Kai.
Okay.
I mean, this is where the Outlaws composition spikes in terms of...
Okay. Massa, please Valk.
So, Happy just needs to, I don't know, not die would be...
Excuse me.
Right,
Let
yeah.
them push in a little bit more.
Blade,
Valk.
a crucial
Valk.
way to...
Massa, Valk.
Smart open.
There's the Valk.
You can even
About a second
give it
late,
over
but
towards Dreamer,
reasonable.
but no. Happy with the blade, finds Kai. That's the start he's looking for. Wants to try and chase down Master, but he's going to be able to get away. Force a deflect to lose some of that blade uptime.
Okay, so we have the window, the Valk, and the duplicate going for Rain. We had the Nanoblade going and the duplicate for Houston. And we're going to have Tangles to throw on this. There's the Remac.
Kai's brought back to the fights now. The effect of the Dragon Blade is essentially erased. Gator is down though, but that's a Remac kill for Pelican. Getting rid of Juby no less.
The Remax.
And the Atlanta Reign, my god, they look much better here, Matt, when they've got plenty of barriers to play with.
Yep.
Yeah, 5 seconds left. The Outlaws just kind of going into panic mode though, as you do have one kill there. Crimzo takes out Kai. Maybe you're able to make something happen here as Happy comes back on the soldiers.
Yeah, looks like they will.
Dreamer putting the pressure on now. The Outlaws have the numbers. They just want to play a little bit more of this map. Happy has to quickly hop, skip, and...
And supports delete Happy. Yeah.
Would have been in Gravitic Flux, and he's able to get away. Massa taken down now, and nicely done for the Outlaws. They just, frankly, they just switch to heroes with mobility. They lock their legs, they bring the Lucio, they get back to the point, they win the fight, and they can keep playing the video game.
And now they are back on real comp here. They were on their overtime swaps there. Now they're going for, again, the Winston. Why is Dreamer on Winston here?
The Reign's so close, like 10 seconds away from...
Like, yes, Winston has better armor right now. Yes, Ball isn't as oppressively powerful as he was in late 2020. Winston is stronger, Ball is weaker. But for enabling a poke comp, Ball was kind of better than Winston.
Getting that full hold, but they're still in the driver's seat on Hollywood in a big way. You just had to have 3 players switch it right away for the Outlaws.
So we're going to see this here. This time they put 4 forward instead of Houston, who only put 3 on the forward high ground.
On them, nobody else has anything really. You'll probably see Crimzo use the Nano on the Dreamer to kind of farm a Primal. But you're in a really good spot overall for the map still if you're the Atlanta Reign.
Kai just trying to lay down some suppressive fire for the time being. Oh, okay, that's a big one actually. Headshot on Dante as he took to the skies. He's still going to be able to fight.
Go team supports. Let's get a little more there. Massa has Valk again for this.
The time being.
Here they are. They're going for this. They lose Pelican.
Headshot on Dante as he took to
Massa decides to instantly Valk into this when he gets it.
the skies. He's still going to be able to find Pelican with that nano boost though. Crimzo eventually goes down.
So Atlanta Reign are maintaining the high ground control, but the Outlaws are sneaking in a little push here and there.
That's a tough job. So he brings
Fine.
Crimzo back. But having already lost Dante here, the Atlanta Reign look like they're looking solid for now.
Yeah, they opt not to use the Nano on a Dreamer. They let Dreamer just get the Primal on his own, and a lot like what we've seen from them so far this series, the strategy seems...
I don't know about dropping here, Hawk.
Echo.
That looks like it might have been a mistake.
Bombs and the focusing beam with the Nano boost. Basically able to get one.
There's the
kill
boop,
every single
counter
time.
boop, good.
See the Outlaws here just trying to find a way to work around
Hawk
the
is
edges of the
generally a
2,
good diva.
or rather with the barrier of the Orisa here just
Of course, I might just say that from nightmares against playing against the Atlanta Academy team.
doing anything to take control of the high ground. They have to play one of the hardest parts of Overwatch here. It's being stuck on the low ground on a map like Hollywood and a stage like the second. Dreamer, oh, he gets knocked up twice. Ah, that's disgusting. A lot of CC leverage in him.
Don't force
The
that,
Barber
good.
Really adds insult to injury as he's again knocked skyward. Kai eventually forced away to some degree.
Okay.
Eric's taken down by Dante. Wants the remake, but the coach gun is going to deny that.
Stayed in Baby
possibility.
Deep from longer than I expected, honestly.
Do make a great
And do still go down.
having the shields, like the static shields for the Outlaws, when trying to take that high ground. so difficult. You see Gator just able to hold that front position.
Okay, can you reestablish any forward high ground control? No, you're doing this purely here.
In the back, and what is
Did you just jump hop that?
front position? You put your Ash in a phenomenal.
You did. Why? Kai.
Difficult. You see Gator just able to hold that front position. You put your Ash in a phenomenal spot.
Why? Why are you jumping?
Out here in the back, and what does Dreamer do? He just kind of jumps halfway between the two. They just turn and focus him down straight away. Really difficult spot for the Outlaws.
Supercharger. Okay, that's going to be really hard for them to push into. Might have been a touch early, but it's going to get value. Oh, and the nano jump got nothing. That's over.
Again, great job from Hawk.
Over.
Goes up with the rocket boosters, just knocking people awry. And that Bob was very short-lived. Not really sure what the plan was there for Happy.
It's like a okay.
On the high ground. He does get rid of
Massa going down is a surprise there.
Sure what the plan was.
Especially while he was in Valk. Massa going down there is a surprise. What takes him down? 1 shot, 2 shot, 3 shots. The last shot hurt. What got Massa? Headshot from Happy. But he took other damage. Okay.
Not really sure what the plan was there for Happy. Trying to keep that up on the high ground. He does get rid of Master at the very least. Tibaneris is in a great position to keep Gator alive. He also has an amplification matrix. It's not even required.
That was closer than it needed to be. And that was a little scary. I mean, Massa went down, and we just have to say good shots on Happy's part there because we didn't see exactly what happened. But Massa going down in Valk when the Nano Monkey didn't get up there, the other team was just having to jump up without any sort of setup at a team that had a supercharger and a Valk going. Like, that's surprising that that was, it wasn't close, but that was even in question for a moment is a bit surprising.
Atlanta Reign will take it
okay.
Away.
That's not too surprising. If they've built their game, their plan around the Orisa comp, they're obviously going to be stronger on these cart type maps, these 2CP type maps. Koth is going to be their weakest game mode if they've built their gameplay around the Orisa. That said, I was not a fan of the Winston Genji. Little bit of way to make it work on first, but in general, not a fan of that. I understand they're thinking, hey, it works on first because we can get behind and then come back in with short sight lines against your poke comp, and then we want verticality for second. Like, I understand it, but it's wrong. It's not strong enough to be running those. Yeah, no. Like, the Genji is going, hey, we're playing this Genji who's never going to get any work done. We're not going to be able to get these dives off with these heroes. Yeah, I'll just complain louder, I suppose.
That is coming right up.
What's wrong with jump hopping? Well, jumping gives you a predictable arc. So why I was complaining about Kai here is jumping gives you a predictable arc, and the other Ash was looking at him when he opened that angle. So he jumped to open the angle, and that's a, hey, oh, look, you're moving in a very predictable way. You go up, and then you're going down on a pretty predictable way, and I can just line up my timing for my headshot if I'm shooting at you. So, like, we don't particularly like that. There's a couple places where you go, oh, no, I'm going to do this. Like, you can go, oh, hey, I'm doing this for the scope. I don't want to slow down, because when you scope, you tend to move slower, and you can go, okay, I am going to jump into my scope so that I'm jumped for my this way movement, and it's like a, hey, I jump, I scope while I'm in the air so that I don't slow down, and I end up here, which is the same place I'd have ended up if I walked, as opposed to if I scope walked and I scoped at this same place or scoped at this place, I'd only end up here. So there's a little bit of an argument for that, but it still does give you the predictable spot on your way down, and there wasn't a great reason to hit the hop right there. It just makes it easier for the other team to go, oh, your movement is predictable and controllable. We didn't talk about this a ton, but Overwatch is in this place where there is no acceleration. Heroes can start and stop moving on a dime, which actually makes it harder to hit people in Overwatch than it is in most other games. If you jump, you can't stop on a dime. You are going to continue downwards like this. That, we don't talk a ton about the skill of making people miss you, but like that skill exists. We don't talk completely about AD strafing because it's not just about AD strafing, and it's not just slamming 80, 80, 80. It's about, hey, I'm going this way, I stop. I'm going this way, I go back a little, I go this way, oh, I stop, I go this way, I crouch, you know, like it's more about that. But if you hit the jump, your movement becomes way more predictable. And against enemy hit scans of this caliber, that should get punished.
The order. Set your sights on the competition with T-Mobile.
Okay.
In the past map, but it's just a very differently structured map to so many.
Okay.
Overwatch, and as a result, definitely requires a different approach compositionally.
Oh, Junkertown. Does it? Does it require a different approach compositionally? Like, Junkertown is the poke map. At least first point.
That's almost more healing than right.
Yet again, so what we've seen from
Houston?
Jake when he's been in the game.
Okay, you guys are still in spawn. You're allowed to troll. Okay.
Back in, like,
Is this real? Or are we just using the Mei wall to put Orisa somewhere?
Atlanta, they'll be playing the Orisa yet again. Orisa D.Va on defense. This time, though, you're going to play Mei McCree. They're going to probably play really close.
Okay, so they are going full brawl. Like, they're going Mei, McCree, D.Va, Bap, Lucio, and then they've said, this is brawl, but by the way, we have an Orisa. So it'll be interesting. They're not pretending to be a poke comp. They're going, hey, this is full brawl. We've just replaced Ryan with Orisa. Works for me. You tend to, when you have the Orisa, be a little more alt-inny because it's a push, except that you're going to have to fortify and just try to wipe out teams when you brawl. That's usually what I expect. That's what we saw in the Reaper Mei meta post-Goats, that was sort of how your Orisas did things. That said, people's understanding of Overwatch is better now. We might see more angle control. We might see more, hey, this still works as a poke comp, so we're not going to commit hard. We're going to play this slower game, etc.
Let's see if they reveal. I mean, obviously not going to reveal what their intention is in that regard. They'll explode from that close left-hand side room if they want to try and go for some sort of spawn camp setup. Jungle comes in to play the Orisa, so now it's
Jake is in. Jung's in.
They actually scouted that out with a sonic arrow there from Happy, so they were expecting Atlanta to play close.
What's their answer? They know the comp that Atlanta's on. What's their answer?
The question is, how do they respond? That's not a great start.
Well, I mean, so he gets booped.
How do they respond? That's not a
Is this your comp?
great start.
This is just kind of a standard super pokey comp. So all of your scouting did was gave you, hey, we're going to find that. Okay.
Well, I mean, so he gets booped. He can actually just dip right back into the spawn. It looked like the wall was a little bit late, so he was able to go back.
They tried. The Masa versus Hawk, or the Masa Hawk communication there is reasonable.
But now Jungu falls. But you've given Dante this like off angle, right? How do you play this with your shield if you're Atlanta? You lose Gator, he's coming all the way back. But like Dante off to the side, you have to deal with this, and you just kind of get pinched right from both angles. So
what's our quality at? This feels a little weak. No, we're at 10. We're at that, and it doesn't go higher. Okay.
You end up losing that fight if you're Atlanta. You're still gonna get like another 2 potentially.
No,
so,
you'll get one more good
we'll
team
see how
fight.
Atlanta comes back and places. Do they stay on?
If you start winning that team fight repeatedly, the card will roll back, and you might get 2 more spot locations, but you're only going to get 1. That wasn't amazing. A 45-second delay isn't amazing. It's like not a throw, but it's not amazing to be spawn camped for a 45-second delay off of it, because it does do things to the ult charge. Obviously, we can see looking at the ult charge that look, Piggy has 80, Happy has 80, Crimzo has 80 effectively, whereas the highest we have over here is 70 on Window, and Window's generally a fast ult. Almost 70 on High Noon, nothing else close.
That's scary. Kai also put to sleep. Dante thinks maybe I can capitalize here. Sticky bombs, focusing beam, and backs out of that one here. But the Rain have definitely been put on notice here, Matt. Atlanta try and make their way out from that low room there. Another sticky bomb connection. Piggy's a little bit low, but Gator's starting to get shredded.
Okay. It's hard to explosively come out of there, that's what they're going for. So Atlanta, if we look at this,
Out of that one here.
have pathed, they reasonably pathed, hey, we're playing a brawl comp, so we're playing closed space to closed space. So they came from second, immediately went in here. And now they're going to go, hey, we can stop the cart from here, your tanks are going to get close to it, and then we'll try to explosively run over a tank, and we'll have about 5 seconds to ourselves, and then we'll finish in cover. Or we'll finish back in cover. Or if we get the tank, maybe we'll then keep going for more because we've extended the time that we can play in the open because there's less incoming damage on us. And as this happens, we should see Hawk trying to answer Dante as they make their play. Now, the cart's a little further than they'd like, but it shouldn't matter. They should still go explosively make their play, but they're not tight enough. They're too far back. Like, these players are back here, when we want all of Atlanta to be able to explosively come out basically as one here, with the tick of their DM, with the Orisa protecting them with her Fortify, etc. This is going to be too slow. This isn't explosive enough. And so Dante's getting early value. Where's Hawk? Where are you, buddy? Hawk! Hawk! Okay. Who are you on, Hawk? No, you're not on Dante. It's not going to work. They're using their lamp. Atlanta are using their lamp, but they haven't found enough value. They haven't really chunked Jongu or Piggy. They got happy.
And they're going to try and follow it up here with a nano-boosted Echo. It's a good little combo. Masa and Gator are both down. There's no Orisas left here.
Ultimately able to get it. Okay.
Try and follow it up here with a nano-boosted Echo. It's a good little combo. Masa and Gator are both down. There's no Orisas left here.
Okay.
And Dante is left.
So ultimately, in that close range box, they are able to get the work done even through the threat. Or no, they're not able to. Let me rewind one more time here. Sorry, I got distracted by the phone there. Here we are. They're doing this. Atlanta come out for their explosive play. As we talked about, they're not really marking the Echo Hide like it wasn't as explosive as I would have liked. It was a little staggered because they weren't close enough. They weren't synced in their ready to push out together thing. The lamp comes out. The nano comes out. The flux comes out from Outlaws. And Outlaws would be in a bit of trouble here. That's what it looks like. But they are able to trade back on Gator and Masa. And now how these comps fracture. When these comps fracture, that's going to favor Outlaws. Plus the nano is still going. So is the window, but there we go.
And Dante is left to run roughshod. Crimson with yet another.
The Brawl comp is more dependent on having all of its pieces than this what do you call it comp is. If you can hit mini resets, the Brawl comp is going to be unhappy if both sides hit mini resets when they've both lost one, both lost two, etc.
That'll be another fight win for the Outlaws.
It counts on its synergies a little more heavily than most other comps do.
On the Mercy now, this is something you would have never thought you would see, right?
I'm not sure I see the benefit of when they zoom in on the character portraits like that sometimes.
Also have a D-Mech here that happens. This is really bad for Atlanta.
Piggy goes down here. Now, Blizzard even being
I guess some people are watching on smaller screens than me, though.
It's odd. I guess there's more value when trying to get a staging point if you're playing a static sort of Orisa-based composition, but the investment of the Blizzard there, Matt, definitely has to be scratching my head a little bit.
Yeah, it wasn't a great Blizzard investment.
Okay,
they got Jake, but they can't really... Okay, they are going to push in. You don't have cooldowns for this, and your Fortify is just about gone, so you back off. And now you're going to continue the aggression with a beat. Okay.
This may eventually, as that'll be a sound barrier for Masa as they want to get aggressive. Use that speed boost, use the domain walls.
Nope. Yeah, like that was really aggressive in a situation, and it clearly wasn't planned called because you saw Gator changed his mind. Like Gator was, hey, I'm going in, I don't have enough Fortify left, and I don't have my barrier, I'm gonna back out, we're not gonna do this rush play. And then it was like a second or two before that beat came in, and he went, oh, I guess we're going anyways. And if the plan was to use that beat, there never should have been hesitation, there never should have been delay. You just gave the other team time to get more poke work done against you.
To split players off, but that's Dante with a double with a self-destruct. Everybody got aggressive
Okay, that's
on
fine.
Atlanta, and Dante makes him pay for it.
I mean, this guy is causing some serious problems for Atlanta, but Master did overextend there as well, passed his own Orisa shield directly into a Bionic Grenade. Crimzo, he's kind of filthy, Matt. He's getting away with a heck of a lot over the course of the 5 games or so the Outlaws have played already this year. Looking like a real threat. The Deadeye from Kaido, just to take Jake out of the equation quickly. He's getting bullied a bit.
Yeah, you've lost Jake early in, both of the last 2 fights. The last one you're able to pull it out with some heroics from Dante. This one doesn't look likely, although you get a sleep and a Biotic Grenade. They don't get a D-Mech on the Hawk. I was going to say, if they get D-Mech, maybe force out self-destruct. Everybody kind of has to save him. You get a Gravitic Flux. Maybe you can make something out of it, but...
Okay, that
Hawk actually
should
was
stop the
really aggressive.
aggression.
Right out onto Dante as he doesn't have Jake attached to him, so now you'll have to wait yet again.
So you wonder that Jake,
Okay, so it is going to be harder for Outlaws to get in now that Rain have been able to stabilize some positioning here, and it's tough to break chokes into Brawl. That's kind of what Brawl is good at, and we're calling this Brawl, what Rain are running.
To have like a really powerful flank option.
So this is sort of breaking a choke in, but it's coming in very much on the low ground, and this Brawl comp is powerful enough in the poke to win with a spread. Interesting, that is a deep window. But you've got the rock, or you've got the wall with it, and you're able to do stuff. Yeah, looks good.
Yeah, and Dante and Jake fall early yet again, so Atlanta doing a nice job this time, specifically Hawk, realizing where these players are moving, being able to fly to them straight away, pick up these kills, and that's, 3 fights in a row you lose Jake early, where now Jake with Valkyrie. Now we'll see how they combo these ultimates. Get the cart.
I would actually like to see, so that is, as they pointed out, a lot of losing Jake early. We've seen Jake play a lot of Brig when he comes in for Outlaws. I haven't seen him play a lot of Mercy when he's come in. I haven't watched every Outlaws game by any means. But in the ones we've reviewed, it's generally been he's in for Brig stuff, and maybe the Mercy's weaker.
Pelican helps set it up in this Gravitic Flux. Could be an issue because
Obviously, his history, for those that don't know, is as a DPS player. Particularly as a DPS player that is known for his shot calling. There we go.
Duplicate this time replaces Jungu by copying Gator as Orisa.
Yeah, and then Jake goes back for Jungu, so he had just a replacement Orisa in the mix for a little bit. But how many fights in a row for the Outlaws? Are you going to lose the support and then kind of bank on like winning the fight, like with some kind of heroic where Dante gets 2 with a focus?
I guess I can go back here and talk that through a little more closely.
Going in there.
Here we are. We're set. That's a nice nade. So this is a little dicey because we're in this situation. I mean, the elimination on Crimzo helps, but this is generally a little dicey. The nanos come in on the Echo. This is a little dicey for Rain because it's a 1-lane fight that they're not just hard running it down. If they choose to just hard run it down, that's fight, but they don't really want an extended, long sightline 1-lane fight. They either need to have multiple poke angles, the superior poke angles, because they've set up on the defense, or they need to turn it into a short-range fight. And at this moment, even though Houston is down 1, it's not a brawl yet. Flux plus duplicate plus nano. Tried to answer with Blizzard, but it doesn't matter. Yeah. Wasn't converted to a... Let me revise that. When it was converted to a brawl, it was basically the Flux had already happened and it was too late. They needed to initiate that fight harder, like have a, we're just going to run at you when we go at one and we're still going to commit our Blizzard and win. And even if we get Fluxed, you're stuck here, you won't be able to follow us up, the Blizzard is in play in the same area. That would have been how they wanted to take that.
With a focusing beam. It's just not a way you're going to consistently win games against these top teams. Sound Barrier comes in, it's a little bit late where Hawk doesn't get the effects with it to keep the mech, so he's going to have to burn self-destruct.
I actually think Janvu blocked that Sound Barrier with the shield that he put down there potentially, whether it was intentional or not. Only went out to 4 players on the side of the Atlanta Reign. Despite that, they were able to subsist through a lot of the attention they got from the Outlaws. And Iris here sits pretty behind an amp matrix. This
Fine, but
throws
can
the
you
spanner in
retake
the
your
works for the
angles?
Outlaws and causes them to pause, forces them to stagger themselves a little bit. But Master again just goes too
There's the
far.
Valk, and you
Headshot
guys
from
didn't
Happy to
take
clean up
angles
Lucio.
before they Valked. You guys
I
are going to
think
be in
he was trying to
trouble.
get a boot, maybe knock players
You
down
can't
from
really
the high
surrender
ground, but
space.
so aggressive.
Okay.
That
He
Valk and
did not mean to
Supercharger
hit
at the
that
same
shot.
time.
He just didn't mean to do that. There's no way.
That's kind of, I mean, it's a lot.
Or, excuse me, that wasn't the... Was it never a Valk? Was it always a Supercharger? Sorry, the beams look similar in this version of the replay viewer.
Throws the spanner in
Okay,
the
it
works
was
for
always the
Outlaws and
Supercharger.
causes
Got
them
it.
to pause, forces them to stagger themselves a little bit.
Yeah.
But Master again just goes too far. Headshot from Happy to clean up the Lucio.
Yeah, I think he was trying to get a boot, maybe knock players down from the high ground, but so aggressive.
Okay,
as
he
Happy
did not mean
makes
to
him
hit
pay
that
for it.
shot. He just didn't mean to do that. There's no way.
That's kind of, I mean.
Oh good, this isn't over yet.
You know,
Come back from doing something else, Blah. Welcome back.
Start firing in that general vicinity, and all of a sudden, you hear the
Yes.
headshot noise start to ding, right?
Cast the net wide, as they say.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Well, the Outlaws here, Matt. Have
Okay,
plenty of
so
time
we
to
saw
get
there.
plays of the map with.
Obviously, the previous fight on second, Rain ran into the issue of they let it be a sort of medium range fight rather than forcing it to be a brawl, even when they were up one, which, you know, they're Outlaws are going to do well if they get to have real poke fights against the Rain here. The Rain can win poke fights, but they've got to win it by taking advantage of the angles that they have by being on defense, being harder to push into, not letting it become a single lane fight, pew 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 at each other. That's not going to work terribly well for them. If it becomes that single lane, you have to do 3-2-1 run them down type plays, and that didn't happen there. They were looking for Outlaws to push in more, but that's not really what happened. Outlaws, when they did push in, were able to flux, were able to nano, were able to do all of that. Then on that next fight, they were able to sort of grind out a positional advantage for the Outlaws. The Rain, when the fight started to swing back, didn't retake their positions well enough, didn't retake their angles. They certainly weren't in a position to run them down, but they were in a position to try to retake angles, and they didn't. And because they didn't, when the Supercharger came down, it was just the Supercharger just was cherry on top. They get to finish this, the Outlaws.
I mean, it helps because they're going to need to win a couple of consecutive fights here. And I wonder how this changes Masa. Always been that kind of player who wants to look for these boots. Now might have to play a little safer.
These supports on both sides just getting picked like
It's an
crazy.
okay
Crimson
Sonic.
picked
It's
on
not
Valk.
amazing.
Now Iris drops really early. You're gonna get the cart potentially this first corner, which is massive. Without
I say that because it mostly gave him information that he already had. I'd have actually preferred it a little more to the left, see a little more what's in spawn.
investing any ultimates here for the Outlaws. It's Atlanta looking to potentially take the high ground.
You're gonna Supercharger with no map control? I don't think so.
Be a supercharger.
Did we answer the Supercharger with a Valk?
Potentially take the high ground.
I'm sorry, that ult doesn't keep up. Valk does not keep up with Supercharger. Those ults have vastly different power levels.
Be a su-
Is your map control good enough to be like, we're gonna win because of our map control?
and the players are quite far away.
I can, please camera, turn. Show me how Houston are actually set up.
Trying to take out, it looks like potentially just trying to get Dante here with it. So,
Oh no.
Okay. Did Valk buy you? No, you already had the flux.
Be a supercharger, and the players are quite far away. I'm just trying to take out. It looks
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't just wait the Supercharger out, to be perfectly honest. You still have a minute on the clock.
potentially just trying to get Dante here with it. So,
Oh no.
And then you hit the
Not even able to do
flux.
that.
They're still stacked because Rain had no map control. And that should be enough. Yes, the lamp is out, but the Valk is still going. The Supercharger is also still going, unfortunately. Are they protecting themselves with the Blizzard? No, they're aggressive with the... Camera! Camera! Observers!
Around a supercharger, all of the rain get caught in that gravitic flux.
Oh, cool! Cool! Now I get to see what's happening over here.
the Blizzard up top on the rotating platform on the
Okay, I would really like to have seen that fight better.
Biggie. He just gets rotated out of the way of the Linus.
And it's not like we had an interesting first-person view either. Like, that was just like, we're gonna stare at the group of supercharged people, and they're shooting at stuff off screen. Okay.
Side of the rain, as the rain ended up using supercharger flux
Mhm.
and the Blizzard, and the card has just moved the entire time.
Yeah, I didn't like the supercharger placement based on the information that I think I have. Atlanta Reign was stacked too tight. The answering with Valk was a little weird, but I would have expected Outlaws to mostly just wait that out. Instead, they answered with Valk and then went for a Flux, but hey, Atlanta Reign stayed stacked for you, so why not?
Kai on a flank. You're going to be able to deal with Crimzo. Maybe you can get a raise here for Jake, but as in Junkertown fashion.
Six spectating cam really lets you see how the battle is unfolding. I don't want to be too tough on them, but that was bad. That was bad than they usually do. Worse than they usually do. Like IRL war correspondents, when they're afraid to look at the people shooting back. Yeah. Piggy has an unflattering name. He chose it.
Team composition. Dante though, some sticky bombs get thrown on the Hawk as the Reign try and push out a spawn here. Iris gets hit with an early bionic grenade, so does Gator. So two of the most important players in this comp have to keep their heads down at the start of this fight. Kai trying to make his way out of spawn here with the Deadeye, but it's respected in fairness, but the Outlaws are ready to fight as soon as it's gone. That's a sound barrier to catch a 6 here. Masa now to push forward just a little bit more.
And that's the end of that. Okay, fine.
Here. Looks like the cart stops here.
We can see anything you want in this game on Tuesday. Yeah, but I won't re-review this game on Tuesday. I'll find a different game to review on Tuesday. I try to do one game sort of while it's relatively fresh, and then I try to do one game on Tuesday.
Dante on the Echo, Happy on the Widow. So this is not going to be a composition you play close to draw with. Jake on the Brigitte just to kind of help bridge.
Mercy, I would have feel like to see that pick here. A Brigitte right up.
Okay, so now we're going to see that the defense from Outlaws were still running the Orisa. It didn't go suddenly ball. That's not terribly surprising. That's normal for this map. Atlanta look like they're going a little blast from the past double sniper type stuff, but that's not weird. And then we have the Outlaws playing the sniper plus Echo. Dante's obviously got a good Echo, so that's not shocking, but it's not going to be the best matchup in the world into this double sniper.
Or do you set up your long range?
Not that Pelican on the Hanzo is like quite the same for taking down Echo, but hey.
Yeah, I think with the way the team is kind of currently constructed right now, I think the Brig is probably the right choice. The Brig can also heal the Echo.
And Outlaws, as we're seeing, this is sort of what we were talking about before. They went 5 poke heroes and 1 anti-dive hero. And this is sort of what we were talking about before when we were talking about, when we had our hero chart up here, when we were talking about you can play a very strong poke comp with 1 strong hybrid or 1 anti the thing that your poke is weak to, which is dive, etc. hero. So there we go. Because the rest of these, this is sort of a hybrid, this is sort of a hybrid, this isn't a hybrid, this isn't a hybrid, this isn't really a hybrid. Yeah.
Obviously not as effective as like a Mercy, but if you're going to play in like a close quarter scenario and have the Echo play around the tanks and really only kind of take advantage of the verticality once players get low with the focusing beam, you can play the Brig and be pretty effective. You do have the Mercy come out
Fine.
for Atlanta as they're playing double sniper, so makes total sense.
So there wasn't an early hold. That's a noticeable difference. Obviously, that makes sense. Atlanta Reign, when they started, were on a brawl comp on their defense. Outlaws are playing a sniper comp on their defense or a poke comp on their defense, and that means that they're looking for the first real fight to be where the card is right now. That's the best defensive position, and if you're only going to get one fight, that's where you want it, and there isn't a great fight to be had in front of where the card is right now. So that's sort of always the debate on first point. Do you try to get multiple fights by doing a spawn camp? Do you try to take an early fight, even if it's not a spawn camp, so you can get a second fight when the cart is down over here? Or do you take your one strong fight where the cart is now? And with this comp, this is obviously reasonable. You'll get yourself some time to do your poke work as the cart gets to here, and then you're able to force your engage when the cart is in this spot that you think you can hold it long term.
just so effective.
Dante over there, Happy over here. I like it.
He's not playing.
Brig playing to pocket. Brig playing to pocket our Echo over there. So this is our Brig. And like, Crimzo doesn't really need the help against what the Reign are running. I guess that's fine. It's a little weird positioning wise, but I guess at this point, not I guess, his highest priority at this point is to pocket the Echo because the other thing he exists to do just doesn't exist on the opponent's cast. So sure, that'll work. He just needs to not get eliminated.
Aggressively, actually, really trying to play quite safe behind this tower, largely because he knows that there's a big old target point printed on his forehead for these two enemy snipers. Jake eventually goes down here, so Jake.
So that's exactly what we were worried about. He's playing there, and it's a weird place for him to be playing. It's purely to be able to pocket the Echo, and unsurprisingly, like this is how this map is played, especially when it's double sniper. You play to go, let's get one sniper control over here, one sniper control over here, over here. That's probably on my camera. One sniper control way on the left over there, and then let's get our tanks fighting over mid or something along those lines, or maybe our tanks and supports fighting over mid. And if you can win on any of the lanes, you go use winning on one lane to get control of the other lanes. That's how this usually works. So I'm a little surprised that, again, Jake is just right here where we always expected someone to come around here. We always did. I'm also a little surprised, though, that Dante is trying to fight in here without having first won this lane, because he was going to have a pocket if he tried to win this lane. That said, Dante doesn't really want to aggressively challenge into the lane that people will already be looking for him on, so he's trying to use this cover. Still would have preferred Jake to not be here, and if Jake was here, would have preferred Dante to challenge this lane harder. Even if that was a pop up over the house type thing.
Knows that there's a big old target point printed on his forehead for these two enemy snipers. Jake eventually goes down here, so Jake wanted to play it with his tanks, but there's a flanking angle for Hanzo, and it's always punishing. The Reign able to outmaneuver the Outlaws here and start to exploit some of those weaknesses in mobility.
And the Outlaws knew they were coming from that angle. Like Dante and Jake are
Mr. X is
off
correct.
To the side there, watching that, and Pelican just comes over the top and hits a shot and finishes off Jake, leaves Dante in a tough position, moving away from Echo now. We'll go to Genji.
Cool.
So this synergizes like way better than trying to play the Echo at the first point.
Not really. It makes more sense, Dante on the Genji, because the Genji's a little more a better answer to the Widow, the Hanzo, etc. to their comp. I don't hate it. I don't necessarily agree that Jake will pocket the Genji better than he did the Echo. Both of those heroes can use the Brig pocket quite well.
You see the pressure that Dante already can put on a player like Pelican.
Now, it doesn't even need nano boost. In fact, Genji in this composition is valued more, I think, for how he plays without the ultimate. But Pelican's able to find the damage boosted headshot there. It's a little too easy right now for the Atlanta Reign to make some of these gigantic steps forward. Pelican absolutely pummels the Outlaws.
Same thing with double sniper. If the snipers are hitting their shots and both are on, and Kai and Pelican, a scary combination.
Who's controlling the left? I see the tanks and support here. Is our DPS controlling left? Yeah.
You really are
Reasonable Sonic. Timing's a little early, but placement is reasonable.
Take advantage of, right? This will be walls that comes in from Kai. So
you could afford to do it early because you knew you were going to wall. Okay.
Actually just delay the Outlaws and give really good info from Pelican here to potentially get a drag.
Okay.
Oh, that is pretty nasty. Now,
it's okay.
A little bit of a gap for the...
Part of the issue with it is, like, yes, he can see it. Yes, that's cool. But anytime you send a dragon sort of at an angle, you're not going to get full credit for it. It's going to be a little easier to get out of. Like, dragons are nice and long. They're not terribly great when you angle it, though. That goes through the floor pretty quickly.
Oh, That is pretty nasty. Now, it looks like there was a little bit of a gap
And as you can see, they're really not missing that much health on the other
for the
side of it.
Outlaws to step to the left and avoid the Dragon Strike. Still, though, that slows him down. Happy's able to find Kai, though, so there's an opportunity for the Outlaws now to get back in after, or in the wake of the Dragon, rather. Gravitic Flux on a great target. It's going to be hard.
Trying to turn it with the
Walk alive.
flux.
You see Iris getting extra healing with direct hits. Actually allows them to keep their Sigma in
Potentially succeeding in turning it with the flux.
the fight. Hawk then turns around and finds Happy somehow with the Hypersphere.
Can we
Don't
keep
ask me how
poking
that
up?
happened, I don't know.
Okay,
And Iris again,
that matters.
getting a lot of value out of these petite changes.
Can you get out of the center of the lane, Iris? Please? Please just get yourself to the car. Like, I understand you were here, you're having trouble reaching, so you got closer, but closer is here, not here.
This will be a Gravitic Flux from Hawk. The rally coming in here for Jake, just trying to keep everybody up on the cart. Not enough healing, though, for Jungwoo. Is Kai from range, just free firing, as this will be a blade from Dante trying to save the day for the Outlaws.
Yeah.
Doesn't do much.
Keeping
Dante's
Pelican up was the
deflecting
difference.
that. I don't think
And
Genji
there we go.
is going to be played much more here as the Outlaws might go back to the Echo here.
Nope.
We'll see. I mean,
you
it's
would go,
tough to
you
really
would
get
go
value there.
Hanzo. You would go Hanzo for Dante. It's just if you're not gonna play Mercy, then it's quite difficult. Like you're putting your snipers at a disadvantage. So if you're not gonna play the Hanzo, if you're not gonna
I mean, I don't think that's what's going on. Maybe that's what's going on. I guess that could be factoring into it. They didn't like Jake's Mercy. Jake's Mercy was struggling last round, and it was. So they're going, we're going to play the Brig. And if you're playing the Brig, it's tough to. I mean, you can't play double sniper if you're playing the Brig. You just don't get enough value with the Brig. You get basically no value out of the Brig if you've got no divers. So is that forcing them onto the Genji? But the Genji isn't necessarily a terrible pick. Like, you're playing into this. The problem is it's just a Genji, and just a Genji isn't really enough to buy this stuff. If you're running Ball Genji, that could be interesting. But just the Genji isn't really going to be enough. Genji isn't like Tracer, where it can be like, oh, I'm just going to exist outside this comp as these comps are playing this way. Like, it can, yes, especially on ladder it can, but at this level of play, Genji's lesser mobility really punishes him for staying valuable in these fights. And Genji's just not powerful enough to be justifying the Brig investment as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, I don't like it. But Dante has a killer Sombra. Like, but there's so much stealth detection. So much stealth detection. I might do it anyway. Dante probably wants to play the Genji and likes the Genji. Could you justify the Sombra? Probably not. Genji's probably better than Sombra. Oh, you can't do Sombra. Sombra's banned. Never mind. Okay.
really specifically with the Hanzo, you kind of commit to this Brig plus Genji combo, but this will be in for sight yet again. Pelican already with another Dragon Strike, so you're going to have that same combo here to figure out how you're going to shoot it off.
I mean, this is tough for the Outlaws. I'm sorry. I don't think Brigitte is good against a poke composition, much less double sniper.
Well, so yes, you're right, Uber, but the thing that you run into is Brig is best when she's countering dive stuff, but her next best thing is enabling her own dive heroes, and running your own dive hero against the double sniper isn't necessarily bad. There's just not enough to enable the actual ability to bother these snipers. It's too easy for a lone Mercy to come answer, for a little bit of BAP healing. Like, it's too easy to support these people, even though they're going to take spread off angles where it's harder to support them against just a Genji or a semi-Brig pocketed Genji, when the Brig can't take the best places because of the danger, because she'll get picked by Pelican like we saw there. He's half right.
Looks really, really hard for the Outlaws to get value out of Jake at all. Yeah, the rally's nice if you can actually build it up, but more often than not, by the time that two Aristas end up sort of slapping each other around at close range, people have been picked off. I mean, Brig's not doing much to prevent that from happening. I guess she can give some biscuits to the Genji to make him a bit more durable, but it doesn't look good at all.
No, and you lose Crimzo here, so you're going to have to wait a little bit. They know Dante's on the flank. Now Pelican's able to deal with them. You use an Amp Matrix here. This
Fine.
should be the Atlanta Reign. Great opportunity to complete the map. Happy, though, takes out Kai, so trying to make a comeback.
They are so far ahead right now, the Reign.
Yeah, I mean,
Still
Pelican's
3
been
minutes left
free
on the
all
clock,
round.
and they're looking comfortable. Jake eventually going to get ground down. Gravitic Flux, but you can see Piggy
Been free to get work done. Not like he's a free elimination. He's been free to get work done. Okay. So yeah, I mean, there is the Jake thing that they're talking about where, hey, Jake is looking like he might be a Brig one-trick when on the support role, and that's not great. The other thing that you run into is... Sorry, we talked about that. We don't need to talk about the other thing. That's fine.
Kai and Pelican just absolutely dominating in that category. It really took away the
Yes, Pelican. I'm going to say less of that on Kai. Kai's looked fine today, but Pelican has looked better.
Being able to play the Mercy at the highest takes it. Pelican
Winds now blow in the Atlanta Reign's favor.
They're not able to kind of keep the echo going.
Stand amongst the top teams in the West.
Yeah, I mean, they are still 4-0, right? You're not going to be perfect forever, the Outlaws, but they see an Atlanta.
Okay. Do I want to do... Looks like we've got 2 more maps here. We see Hanamura, and then that's clearly... Is that a replay? Didn't we start on Ilias? So is this just 1 more map? We started on Ilias. So that's... Oh, that's Uprising. That's Uprising and Defiant. So then this is the last map. Okay, I'll do 1 more map.
Atlanta Reign really give the Outlaws trouble. The Outlaws look the less invincible now that they're swapping players in and out. You've kind of seen how they're able to win in certain situations. Now, obviously, being taken
Okay,
advantage
are
of
they
in
going to make
certain
adjustments? They do. Unsurprisingly, Juby is in for Jake.
And they start to really practice some of this stuff, and it provides...
Fine.
Equal measures here, because the Atlanta Reign conversely benefit greatly from being able to play these. And Sigma, really depending on how easy it is for the other team to get around that double shield setup. Obviously, incredible D.Va player, really, really strong on that particular role. Now, of course, D.Va's extra dangerous because of how the remake works.
Okay, so we see here our defense was set up by Rain with our ball. We're playing ball defense, and that doesn't bother me. Ball defense is fine. You just have to understand what your kill boxes and such look like. We are setting up. D.Va was doing scouting, is retreating, have the Ashe up here. Ana over here, which is okay. Ana's over here are really hard to extract, but they don't get a ton of offensive value compared to the Ana here, which is easier to poke out, but gets better offensive value. So that's fine. If you're choosing to make your box here, so be it. So be it. They're going to have to do that, though. They can't let it be too far forward, and they are going to have to let them in a little bit for this to get value. For the Reign, we are looking at they're staying on the Orisa, but they are going, hey, they've got the Orisa and the BAP, but this is very much a poke composition. More so than it was on Well when they were running their Soldier McCree type stuff. Like, this is very much a poke composition, definitely leaning into her poke aspects, not using her as a Reinhardt replacement here, just happened to include a BAP. Excuse me, hiccups.
I think you said 3 remakes in this series. I think we've had 2, at least 1.
Yeah, I think we've had 2.
Yeah.
I hope we don't get a 3rd. I don't want Johnny. You're right.
Okay, so we're spamming out that choke.
He could be right about the Earthbeak flat or something else. Or he could be right about some mythological thing, you know what I mean?
I don't know about the piggy placement there. Piggy really can't hold that and is going to have to use boosters to leave, and then you're not going to be able to hit the dive that you want.
Troy.
Well, you gotta let him
whoever
have some of
Troy
these
was.
ones.
I,
Yeah,
all
good
I
bloke.
heard Brandon
Yeah,
talk
and there's no real dive there.
about
Yeah,
Troy.
nah, good bloke. I met him actually. Yeah, nice. Yeah, good value. Here's the Outlaws getting pressured on defense. They play Wrecking Ball on defense as always.
There was just...
Risky business.
Why? Again, Wrecking Ball on defense isn't a problem. The problem was they set their diva up like they were going to take the fight super early. They didn't take the fight super early. Like, you have to let them in part way. You can't just use your diva to try to hold against this comp that's going to push in like this. Like, you need to be able to have your ball and your diva come in at the same time. You can't have your diva, oh, my diva got forced out and now my ball comes in, which is basically what happened there. And it was always going to happen with how they'd set up their positioning.
They get ran over. They're not even able to really kind of make any type of play at the choke.
They weren't set up to make a play.
They lose Piggy straight away. You have the immortality field from Iris to just kind of walk in through the choke. Even if you take some damage, you're still able to live through it. The Atlanta Reign take this point instantly. Now we'll see them have a chance, probably for a record time, but also for a map completion. Which you get think about the momentum here, Mitch. If you get a really fast time for Atlanta, A and B complete the map, anything 3 minutes plus, that's really gonna kill the Outlaws' confidence that they can come back and make this.
It's a psychological blow, right? I mean.
Okay, so Reign are trying to rotate through the standard rotation. Diva's off-angling to bait some attention here. That makes it so that there's not a complete hold against the normal rotation, and Diva can use boosters to rejoin them on the normal rotation, or continue to maintain an angle. They brought someone back to support her.
These all play into the mental game, and
okay.
That can manifest in situations like this when it comes.
It's Kai. Kai can't make up his mind. This is the Valk. The Valk should get us most of the way to the Supercharger. We'll also have a window. This could very much be a problem for Outlaws.
Somehow the Outlaws have to find a way to get Atlanta off this high ground and move them away. Dreamer
no, this is going to work.
But he's going to take a face full of damage. And
Joby goes down.
That's not good. One of those mainstays for the Outlaws here that could guarantee a solid defense has already been taken away.
It's the duplicate from Dante. That's a big deal, though. You managed to find Iris.
That makes it impossible for Iris and Master to escape.
Yep. Okay.
And can you get a tick here if you're Atlanta?
No.
That's really kind of what you're
not anymore.
At this point, as it doesn't look likely. You just had the Bob
okay.
with Hawk on the point. Hawk will just jump off.
They were able to bring that back. That was a bad start, but Reign didn't take as good a positioning as they could have for that, and they didn't get quite enough value while they had that belt going in the beginning.
If you let Kai get set up there, it's going to be dangerous. He goes over to McCree, so I actually really like this swap, because what they're doing constantly is like Dreamer and Dante going in, trying to get a...
Okay, so the Kai over to McCree. Yeah, that does help a little bit more with Dreamer. I haven't really considered Dreamer to be a serious threat.
You have the McCree, and you either stun the ball, you're able to, put some shots in Dante. It makes everything so much tougher for the Outlaws to execute on really what this comp's trying to do.
Okay.
That cannot happen. That cannot happen. You were talking about this before, though. That's the risk of pocketing an Echo. Echo has to get much closer to be effective than Pharah. Additionally, that obviously means that the Mercy has to get more involved too. That's dangerous stuff, and it looks like the Reign were ready to punish that. And now the Outlaws are in trouble once more. Been a rocky round for them so far. They need to hold on here, but really it's going to be all about Piggy trying to buy as much time as possible. Self-destruct. Okay, Holt thrown out there, and Dante just ducks back around the corner. But the Reign have numbers. They have Iris set up in a really safe spot, by the way.
Outlaws have spawned everyone. They don't have the positioning yet, but they've spawned everyone. They have shots to get back into this.
Crimzo absolutely saves the day again, but Piggy goes down. Happy's lost the Bob, so that key stall element now is gone. With Dreamer coming back from spawn, or from the periphery rather. It's going to be tough to prevent this. That's 1.5 ticks. Gator gets hit with a body grenade though. That could be a big opening. Again, Crimzo's the one that creates these opportunities. But it's going to take more than that. Are you kidding me, Dante? A crucial 2 kills there. Gets rid of the Orisa and the McCree. And somehow the Outlaws find their way back in. That's 1.5. Dreamer coming back from spawn, or from the periphery rather. It's going to be tough to prevent.
Sure.
That's 1.5 ticks.
So they were able to put that together on Gator.
Gator gets hit with the body
Ultimately, Happy got the limb, but it was that was 4 people that were really
grenade,
working
that
on
could be a
Gator
big
there.
opening. Again, Crimso's the one that creates these opportunities, but it's going to take more.
I'm not sure I agree with that. Crimso's playing fine, but I'd say Dante is creating a lot of these opportunities. Duplicate has saved this team a lot of times.
It's not somehow. I mean, Dante just makes another play on
Right.
Echo. I mean,
Mate, he just left that mech behind. He just walked away from it like a cool guy in Explosions.
I mean, he was dominant in map number 1 after the kickoff, and if he doesn't, you kind of look back on how the series has progressed since then. He doesn't play like that. Who knows if we're even seeing this map? It could have been Atlanta's to take as they bring in the legs. So you bring in the Soldier 76. This is really making a play for the high ground, but also tells you how important it is to get the Echo out of the sky.
Okay, double hit scan. They do look much more like a Brawl comp now. They've even dropped their Lucio for a Brig. That's an interesting one, but Dreamer's on the Winston. Okay,
Means that, you know, if they
I understand.
for the high ground with just the McCree, his fall off makes it hard to actually press that advantage. Now with the Soldier
Not really.
76, it means much more to have this position, and of course, he synergizes so much better than Echo does.
Okay, so let's see that engage one more time.
His fall
They go here. They don't take the super high ground. They take the mid high ground. Purple on Kai matters. On Masa probably doesn't.
now with
The window's going, and the decision is made as the Diva leaves.
and of course,
Piggy doesn't have boosters. Why are you going in when Piggy doesn't have
Guys, is
boosters?
so much better than Echo does with that amp matrix.
Dreamer, that was a feed.
Dante and Crimson are down here, so that's your playmakers off the table right now for the Houston Outlaws. And this is exactly where you want to be. You're damage boosted, you're sat on a
There we go.
field, McCree's flanking you, you're all good.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get the fight happening on the point while having hit scan on that mid-high ground, you win. That's kind of how it works. They didn't really get the fight happening on the point for the beginning there, but they were able to go, we have a window, we have a supercharger, we have this, and the aggression from the Outlaws, when the Outlaws are playing dive, their timing there wasn't good to actually hit the dive. It was first Diva in, then Winston in, etc.
And you have the Soldier just raining down damage. Still puts a ton of pressure on the Outlaws. You have to feel great in these gonna cruise and things.
Pretty solid time, 2 minutes.
Really
But it's 2 CP, so anything can happen. I want to see the defense. Rain are going with the
Atlanta want
Orisa.
some sort of positional advantage. The Ant Matrix in this case is incredibly strong. The Outlaws, their composition is designed to deny that, to sow discord, to knock people out of position. But there's too much damage here from the Rain.
Not really.
How they
They need to hit more coordinated dives, not just knock people out of position.
Good positions, Matt, by default. Just on.
No. No. You're not allowed to run this comp.
Virtue of being defenders.
I'm talking about the attackers. They could be trolling me. Okay, now we're closer to a real comp.
Alright, so this is a new look here for the Outlaws.
Okay, so other than this would be the Talon dive comp, the dive brawl comp, the Winston brawl, however you want to consider this comp, but usually these 5 heroes plus either Tracer or Sombra get run as a comp, and this is sort of like what I find this comp is best at is punishing comps that are sort of hybridizing, comps that have sort of gone, well, we're partially poke, we're partially dive, we are partially brawl, we're partially dive, we're partially, when comps that split themselves too hard, I find this does a good job of overwhelming. Now they're using an Echo, which gives them some very serious poke, while mostly maintaining their ability of, there are no heroes in here that are a good dive target. Lucio will get away. Moira will fade away. Diva has boosters. Winston has leap. Reaper has Wraith. Like, nothing in here, and Echo has Flight. None of these are good dive targets until you really poke them out, get them out, etc. And this comp doesn't look to let itself be poked out. It looks to go really, really fast. It wants to take the fight immediately. It wants to go, we're using cover, we're using cover, we're using cover, we go. And it'll even forgo some level of map control, some level of proper staging, to just take the fight early to not let itself get poked out in the staging process. Because, again, nothing is terribly powerful here poke-wise. Moira doesn't do a great job of sustaining long term if there's not things for her to right click off of. So that's what this is looking at. These guys, on the other hand, are going, hey, against this comp, we would like a much longer poke phase. We would very much like a much longer poke phase, and they've gone pretty heavily in the poke this time. So this could work. This could work, but they've gone heavily enough in the poke route that I actually think they're going to be okay. They're going to, because they aren't like sort of compromised, or we're partially poke, we're partially brawl, they've gone pretty heavy into the poke. I think they're going to have the tools to just blow these guys up primarily on the way in, and to not let these guys engage on them immediately, to use their proper poke tools, their halts, their boops, their TNTs, etc. Like, they should have the good tools to do this.
We haven't seen them run it this series. We've seen other teams bring this into the mix. So the Moira Lucio with the Reaper. So who do they go for?
That's going to be the real question. Who do they go for? There's no one great to dive on Atlanta's team either. And that's going to cause the poke phase to be longer.
They're going to go to the high ground. The Ashe can just get out of the way. And so can Hawk. So can close the gap on them. I don't think you just kind of push the Orisa as Pelican. I mean, that is such a great read. They realize that there's no Mercy in the mix. Dante alone at the choke. He has the Mercy pocket. Just goes right
I mean, they're looking for a poke fight.
I mean, yeah, you know you can play aggressively when you have the Mercy.
If you go full poke, you beat this comp. If you go full brawl, you beat this comp. If you go full dive, there's ways to fight this comp. This comp is pretty good at punishing compromises, but Rain's comp is not a compromise. It's very heavily poke.
That first kill with this composition.
Well, that time they tried to actually go over towards Kai up on the high ground, and a lot of that is probably to allow Dante to get in through the choke. Like, if he controls that high ground area and you don't have the Mercy, it's going to be difficult to get him through the choke. It doesn't really benefit from the speed boost at all. So they go to that top left high ground again. Kai ain't there. He's playing far back on the other side, and look at this. Atlanta does the same thing. They push straight through the choke. They know they have.
Right, but he's just going to get pushed every time because Pelican knows he can take the fight, and he's also going to get support. Like, nothing can support Dante. Other people can shoot at Dante.
No Tracer, no Sombra. Can't make those changes here.
And no information. The Atlas have no idea what Pelican, for example, is doing. There's no way of getting a decent vantage point unless Winston jumps up just to come straight back down. But this is terrible for them.
Here's another thing. These Outlaws players need.
Okay, so Dante should be back.
Because
they know that so the Outlaws comp is not bulky enough to just turtle on point to force Rain to come to point. Like, it's not bulky enough. The cover on point is okay, not great, but it's not bulky enough like a Goatswood or even a normal Brawl comp to go, oh, we're just going to sit here. They have a Winston, not a Reinhardt. They have a Moira, not a BAP. And the BAP matters because the BAP gives you a little more pressure and at least lets you poke back as the team is poking you, which does help your sustain, as weird as that may seem. And also, BAP can heal forever. Moira really can't.
Moira duplicated. All right then. Kamehameha! The Dragon Ball Z showdown across the map. Coalescence built for Pelican here. Looks like he's doing fine. I mean, Crimzo is able to get a lot of value with his own. The extra healing. Can't go wrong. We're seeing so many supports duplicated, Matt. Why is this?
It's because he's diving the supports and that's who's available to him.
I mean, I think it's really situational. Like,
I mean, it's not always what's going on, but like the Anna's thing that we saw in Hollywood was very much, well, that's the only good target. That was the only reasonable target available to him.
It also could actually be a mistake. I
he was looking at the Winston.
Yeah, that one was probably a mistake.
Well, there was a few with Fleta that looked like 100% mistakes, but he kept doing it over and over again. I think he kind of just thought he was trying.
Okay. I want to see how they got in this time.
Yeah, I mean,
So they're rotating
there
in
was
here
a field
again.
Fleta that looked like 100% mistake.
Dream is
That he
chunked.
kept doing it over and over again.
Happy's chunked.
You get it.
Kai survived.
The Outlaws get
That's a tick.
control the point. They get a tick.
You might get 2 here.
Sound barrier here.
But Dreamer's low enough that you guys can probably push
Out
this
of it,
fight. Nope, and then they're going to extend out, and the beat is too late. Okay, they're just going to kite you and win.
Sound barrier's a bit hard,
Hawk
so
and
I think
Remac.
the lane is just going to take 5 for a moment. But they got rid of Dream, and that's huge. The Outlaws tried to push their advantage, and maybe they just bit off a little bit more than they can chew. Hawk, though, he's hungry.
I'm not
and he's
remotely
gonna try and
convinced,
run Crimzo down,
and I could have
who
told
can
you
do
this
nothing
3
but
minutes
just
ago.
back
I'm not
away,
remotely
and he's
convinced
not
that
really fast
the
enough yet.
wet blanket comp, the Talon
Spray
dive,
down
can
in the
get
back.
a tick on
Crimzo
this
hosting
point
Juby,
against
keeping
what
it
Rain are
clean,
running.
but Hawk wants to get messy. Crimzo
Excuse me, get a tick. They did get a tick. Can capture first is what I
burned
meant
down
to say.
here.
Yes, clearly they
Another
did get a
very
tick, but getting a tick doesn't matter when the other team knows that they finished the
Very
map.
nasty stagger
They're
for
happy to give a
Houston.
tick. I'm honestly surprised they didn't give you 2 ticks in the last push.
The supports look like they're potentially gonna get staggered. He jumps through at the end. He ends up dying. The supports end up making it out. So this is really looking bad for Houston. You have a Death Blossom, Primal Rage, a duplicate here, but an Matrix from Iris, and then Kai up on the high ground. Houston tries to go
Jovi
in.
goes down. That completely takes away their speed, hurts their sustain.
That's the one thing this comp relies on is the speed to kind of get close and close the gap. And with 20 seconds left, you know the Lucio's coming through the choke. And
You just
Pelican's
halted.
going to go right toward Pelican's going to go right towards that choke. He's going to try and just kill Juby as he tries to come on in. Look at this.
Yep.
Ah, but he's not
So
succeeding.
wrong. That's the back away here. He can duplicate. There's a coalescence now on the point.
Okay, Pelican and Dante both go for the duplicates. They're going for the Divas, which is both of their preferred targets.
Okay, beams out, but Elena looking for some KO Ken times 10.
Okay.
He's in trouble. He has to back away from that one. Pelican will have a self-destruct here. And he could just send it really wherever he wants to now. Dante finds Kai, so both players get the duplicate.
Ooh, that's the end.
No! Another one! And Dante, of all people, getting caught by a remake. Pelican's like, really, bro? It's going to end like that? Yes, it's going to end like that. In dismay
Okay.
and disgrace for the...
Oh, let's go back. So that's the series. Obviously, Outlaws do not look as good, or at least today did not look as good as they looked in the previous stage, the previous qualifiers. That is not great. Our big takeaways, Atlanta struggled with the Orisa comp, sure, on their King of the Hill, so that's something that they might want to clean up. They might want to go, hey, we need to play the ball on King of the Hill, or we need to adjust how we play this on the King of the Hill. Their double hit scan strategy would convert to a poke comp. Didn't quite do it, so there's going to be some research done for them there, or some practice done on let's make the King of the Hill better, because you're running into this situation of, oh, hey, what are we going to do? Like, we don't just want to lose King of the Hill. That said, they did make the Orisa work everywhere else quite well, and it was very one-sided on Hanamura, and we saw the value here. For the Outlaws, this looked weak. This could be playing on ping issues, but this looked weak. This looked very good. This looked fine. This looked fine. Yeah. This is... I'm disappointed with what I saw here. Maybe this is ping, but I'm also disappointed with the decision to run so much Winston Ball. And while Crimson Dante did look very good on Echo, when Dante was not on the Echo, he was okay. But what, his hero pool that's basically allowed in this meta is what, the Echo plus Tracer and Sombra are both off the table, which are both heroes that he's pretty good at. What was I saying? The Genji. Yeah, the Genji. And that Genji wasn't like... The Genji's not enough unless you give it another dive hero, and I don't agree with how hard they were trying for some of this dive stuff, where it was like, hey, or no, it was Happy that was on. No, did they play both of them on Genji? Dante was the Genji on, yeah, Dante was the Genji on Junkertown, but I think we might have seen Happy's Genji? That can't be right. It has to have been. No, I think it was, because I think we saw Echo plus Genji on Hollywood. We did. Okay. Yeah. Over here, if we're looking at our players, I mean, again, we're seeing some good Echo play, and that I'm wanting to rate Echo players highly is making me think I should probably be paying more attention to Echo in general right now. We saw this last week with Fleta as well as his mirror, but the Echoes are looking good right now. Kai performed at a similar level to Happy, maybe a touch behind. I would give Hawk the nod over Piggy with what we saw here. I mean, Masa could play all of the heroes. That's gonna be a win over the Jake problem that we had here. I don't really have a preference between Crimzo and Iris in this particular match. I could look more closely and find it, but that's fine. And Gator, obviously, if we're just looking at them in the mirror and not talking in general, but just looking at the mirror, Gator outplayed Dreamer. So yeah, we're looking at that. That shouldn't be 6 up arrows. They're different sized up arrows at least. Anyway, so yeah, that was interesting to see. Interesting to see Outlaws fall from where they did last stage. Maybe they'll clean it up here. I think Dreamer was a new add to their roster though, so maybe it's just synergy problems there. Maybe it's ping problems. We shall see. Or maybe they just don't have the tools in this new meta. Atlanta Reign, this looked good. This looked fine. It didn't look amazing though. This was not some, oh yeah, these are definitely a top 3 team by any means. This looks, I think what we saw here is uh, a fall from grace for Outlaws more than a rise to power. Like, Atlanta looks fine, but they don't look like a top 3 team. They look like maybe, I would guess, maybe they're going to be a top 5, maybe they're going to be a top 7, etc. Cool. Okay, if people have questions, go ahead and throw them up in chat now, and I can hang for a minute or two, couple minutes to answer those. If you guys are enjoying the content, please do like and subscribe, as that both helps me out and tells me what type of content you guys like. Like, for example, if you really dislike the OWL reviews, that's feedback I want to know. Or if you like the OWL reviews with the replay viewer, but you don't care about the OWL reviews before we get the replay viewer because we don't go into as high a level of depth, that's something I want to know too. So get in there, hit that like button if you're enjoying it. You can hit the dislike button if you don't. Leave comments if you don't. Tell me what you guys are looking for more or less of on the channel. Or if you are looking to get coaching yourself, you can join my Discord in the description below. See what rates look like, see what sort of promos, special events we have going on, all that good stuff. I'm going to give you guys just a minute for questions here. But I think that's going to do it. Thanks, guys.